Chapter 292. Requesting monthly votes. Requesting subscriptions. Because Yen Di had lost control of the clear Qi Grand Formation, the foreign dimension created by the formation instantly became unstable. Up in the sky, cracks would occasionally split open in space, violent power pouring out from within, as though the heavens were bleeding. This violent power might originate from Yen Di, Xian Dongping, or Yuan Tian. Regardless of who it originated from, descending from the heavens, it was like a natural disaster, posing a massive threat to Broad Creed Mountain down below. A large portion of the clear Qi Grand Formation's control was currently in Xian Dongping's hands, its power unceasingly drawn over by him to deal with Yen Di. At this moment, Broad Creed Mountain had already lost the protection of its guardian Grand Formation that had always protected it. The terrifying power emanating from the sky landed amongst Broad Creed Mountain's numerous mountains, instantly causing destruction. Wherever it landed, there was a tragic scene of the earth quaking and mountains shaking. The mountains of the past had suffered a baptism of blood and fire today. The 8 peaks of Broad Creed Mountain had all been tormented. While there was no longer the protection of the Grand Formation, countless Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners had resided and cultivated within the mountains of Broad Creed Mountain. The majestic, vast true intent of the martial Tao, accumulated over time, also unceasingly condensed into mountain peaks. The mountains that looked ordinary were actually as tough as Vajra, not like when they had just been created, where experts of the martial Tao could easily flatten them. The current 8 peaks of Broad Creed Mountain were something that even peak martial grandmaster experts would find hard to damage. However, a terrifying sword light descended from the sky at this moment, directly cutting the top of one of the 8 peaks, fire-leaving peak, in half. The mountain peak that had originally been smooth as a mirror became sharp and jagged once more. The terrifying impermanent devilish qi that resembled roiling gray fog leaked out from the cracks in the sky, drifting all over Broad Creed Mountain. Whether it was Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners or decimating abyss martial practitioners, all who came into contact with this impermanent devilish qi felt their minds go blank, feeling suffocated. Martial practitioners with lower cultivation bases, enveloped by that blurry gray fog, instantly died, losing their lives. Even the devilish domain Grand Formation that Fang Zhuan was working hard to suppress was affected by this power, its originally already weak balance becoming increasingly unstable, the difficulty of suppressing it becoming even greater. After the cracks in the sky appeared, a terrifying destructive power leaked out, before they instantly healed once more. But soon, a new crack would appear. What was even more worrying was that the cracks were appearing more and more frequently, and the intervals between them were getting shorter and shorter. Many a time, several terrifying cracks would appear simultaneously, bringing disaster to Broad Creed Mountain. Elder He who was guarding Yuan Zhengfeng's closed-door cultivation grounds on Converting Lake Peak had a gloomy expression when he saw this. The old lady's hunched figure now straightened, the disproportionately huge Broad Creed heavenly avatar standing amidst the numerous peaks of the Broad Creed mountain range. Then, it raised both its palms upwards. The majestic, vigorous heavenly Broad Creed palm possessed the power to overturn the heavens. Now that it was raised upwards, it resembled a pillar that supported the heavens. Under Elder He's efforts from the outside, the foreign dimension in the sky seemed to have stabilized a little, and it was no longer breaking down as frequently. However, the space around Elder He became more and more distorted, exerting pressure on her, causing her to bend more and more. At this moment, in the distance, a streak of light sped over towards Broad Creed Mountain. They were precisely Yan Zhaoge, Shi Tai, and the others who had speedily returned to reinforce Lianhu County's devilish domain Grand Formation after having taken care of it. Led by Shi Tai, Yan Zhaoge and the others streaked across the horizon, hurrying towards Broad Creed Mountain. As he neared, he just happened to witness the scene of the clear Qi Grand Formation suddenly erupting with an unknown change. It was as if it had been struck by 2 giant, formless arrows, enduring an immense impact. Looking from afar, the clear Qi Grand Formation seemed as wrinkled and distorted as a painting. Yan Zhaoge knit his brows, carefully feeling the changes in the grand formation as his expression involuntarily changed slightly. The grand formation has changed, becoming chaotic beyond compare. Still, there are traces of it amidst the chaos. Someone has done something to it. Su Fei's expression was solemn. Senior apprentice Uncle Yan will inherit the grand formation from Grand Master's hands. There is no need to make any special changes, just having to unleash the power of the formation normally. For this to happen, someone must be planning to seize the formation. Yan Zhaoge rubbed his temples. Xian Dongping. Apart from him, there's no one else. What's worse is that I'm afraid he's succeeded. Everyone's heart sank. The mountain guarding grand array falling into Xian Dongping's control, what it signified was something that everyone was very clear on. Xian Dongping was originally someone who stood at the peak of the martial grandmaster realm, only a step away from the martial saint realm. In the entire Eight Extremities world, of the current martial grandmasters, there was only Yuan Zhengfeng who dared to say that he would definitely be able to defeat Xian Dongping. If father was transcending mortality, he would also definitely be able to defeat that old ghost. Yan Zhaoge let out a long breath. However, with the clear qi grand formation falling into Xian Dongping's hands, his strength would be equivalent to that of a martial saint. Adding in the devil saint Yuan Tian, even if father can withstand it, Broad Creed Mountain would also be destroyed. Shi Tai's expression was solemn, his gaze not even shifting as he gazed in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain. Ah, who bared his teeth, young master, that fluctuation just now, what exactly was it? Yan Zhaoge said, an attack from the outside world shook our clan's grand formation from two different directions, giving Xian Dongping a chance. Heaven falling formation breaking thunder, anti-sun, earth returning talisman, 9 palaces reversing artifact, it's probably one or a few of these things. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head to glance at the southern fire domain. I remember now, I heard that the Sacred Sun clan once had a few anti-suns, but that was already a matter of 600 years ago. From the looks of it, they've found a few more. Yan Zhaoge smiled coldly as he looked towards the eastern earth domain. Activating the anti-sun requires a high-grade spirit artifact bow at the very least. With 2 anti-suns simultaneously shooting over from 2 different directions, other than the Sacred Sun clan, the Heavenly Thunder Hall has also joined in today's matter. Shi Tai's expression was firm as iron. Pass today's tribulation first, and settle the scores one by one in the future. Feeling the changes in the spiritual qi of the formation, Yan Zhaoge suddenly said, eldest apprentice uncle, please stop for a moment. As Shi Tai looked at him, Yan Zhaoge nodded solemnly, I might have a way, but first let me carefully analyze the specific changes in the clear qi grand formation. All right. Shi Tai chose to believe in Yan Zhaoge, who had always had outstanding attainments in the Tao of formations. While his heart was burning with anxiety, he also halted. As soon as he landed, Yan Zhaoge knelt down on one knee, pressing his palm onto the ground. With Yan Zhaoge's palm as the center, numerous fine spirit patterns shockingly surfaced on the ground, resonating with the clear qi grand formation that enveloped the surrounding area within the sky. Yan Zhaoge unceasingly calculated, Shi Tai and the others standing guard by his side. Now, people suddenly approached from the distance. They were 2 girls, Feng Yunsheng and Sikong Qing. Seeing Yan Zhaoge and Shi Tai, they both heaved a sigh of relief. Eldest apprentice uncle, master sent us out to welcome you. Quickly return to reinforce the clan, the situation there is very dangerous. Shi Tai asked, what are the specifics? Feng Yunsheng speedily answered, the martial repository's first seat elder Xian is a traitor, and the clear qi grand formation very likely falling into his hands. Currently, he is joining hands with the Devil Saint Yuan Tian within the Grand Formation, battling senior apprentice Uncle Yan and Elder Zhang. Elder Zhang is heavily injured. The Heaven Sealing Gorge has a devilish domain Grand Formation guiding the descent of the 9 underworlds. Senior apprentice Uncle Fang is currently suppressing it, while Elder he is guarding Grand Master in secluded cultivation. Master and the Heaven Sealing Gorge's first seat Elder Gong are leading fellow disciples to clash with the decimating Abyss martial practitioners. The other side has quite a few experts. Hearing her words, everyone's expressions turned grave. Chapter 293. Thank you everyone. Yan Zhaoge's expression was solemn as he looked in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain. There, the black devilish qi surged to the heavens, the formerly elegant green mountain resembling a ghost domain at this moment. The 9 underworlds descending within, Xian Dongping seizing the Guardian Grand Formation and attacking Father together with the Devil Saint Yuan Tian, and the Sacred Sun Clan in the Heavenly Thunder Hall watching from the side. Yan Zhaoge sucked in a deep breath. This tribulation is really difficult. Who looked rather worriedly at Yan Zhaoge, young master, the family head. Yan Zhaoge did not speak, focusing in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain. Above the mountain peak, the space was distorting unceasingly, as though it might break apart at any moment, infinite destructive power about to pour out from within, descending towards Broad Creed Mountain directly below. As spiritual light flickered, from the back mountain's converting lake peak, 2 massive palms extended, as though propping up the heavens as they supported that distorted space, stabilizing it as much as possible so that it would not affect Broad Creed Mountain. That should be Elder He, guarding over Grand Master, also unable to sit still, having been forced to make a move. Yan Zhaoge looked towards the other side of the back mountain, in the direction of Water Ridge Peak, where devilish qi surged to the heavens, virtually already completely enveloping Water Ridge Peak. However, within the domain of black devilish qi, a bright sword light shot into the heavens, stabilizing the devilish domain, not expanding any further. From the looks of it, it is second apprentice uncle, forcibly suppressing the devilish domain grand formation. Because he was uncertain of who the traitor was, after analyzing the method to suppress the devilish domain grand formation, Yan Zhaoge had not provided it to the clan. The decimating abyss's research and improvements towards the devilish domain grand formation were also improving unceasingly. From being unable to leave hell at the start, only able to experiment within, at the time of clear concealed lake, relying on the water veins originating from hell, they were able to set up a formation. And starting from the Sand Region City, in places far from hell, they could also set up a devilish domain grand formation, able to guide devilish qi, changing the location where the Great 9 Underworlds door descended. Through analyzing the other party's devilish domain grand formation, Yan Zhaoge's proficiency in breaking formations rose unceasingly. Meanwhile, on the decimating abyss's side, or perhaps it should be said that it was precisely the Lord of the decimating abyss, Xian Dongping, through analyzing Yan Zhaoge's formation-breaking technique, had also improved his proficiency in setting up formations. Through the devilish domain grand formation, Yan Zhaoge and this bigwig had already clashed for quite a few rounds through space. Previously, in the situation where he had been unable to ascertain who the traitor was, Yan Zhaoge had only provided his father Yan Di with the newest method to suppress and break the devilish domain grand formation. However, Yan Di was currently engaged in a great battle with a powerful foe within a foreign dimension. He was naturally unable to send a clone to inform Fang Zhuan. Fang Zhuan was currently completely relying on his cultivation base to suppress the devilish domain grand formation. Fortunately, his cultivation base was much higher than Yan Zhaoge's, and his understanding of the 9 underworlds devilish qi also far surpassed that of others. It was just that in order to protect the first seed of the Heaven Sealing Gorge, Elder Gong, and seal the Heaven Sealing Gorge, he had been trapped by Xian Dongping, causing Fang Zhuan to expend a great deal of energy. Right now, he could only barely suppress the devilish domain grand array. Still, it had at least prevented the 9 underworlds from directly descending upon Broad Creed Mountain. Right now, the most dangerous and crucial situation is still on my father's side. Yan Zhaoge knelt on one knee, pressing his palm on the ground, unceasingly feeling the changes in Broad Creed Mountain's Guardian Grand Formation, while father is accompanied by the clear qi robe. The opponents he faces, the Devil Saint Yuan Tian and Xian Dongping, who has obtained control over a large portion of the Grand Formation, are equivalent to 2 martial saint experts. It's also thanks to Dad that he was able to hold off the 2 of them by himself. Otherwise, any one of them would have been able to wipe us out. The crux of the matter was that Yan Di's side had already completely gone all out, experts of the martial saint realm battling to the death as the heavens and the earth overturned. It was already very difficult for others to interfere in such a battle. Even transcending mortality martial grandmasters were somewhat insufficient. This included Feng Zhuan. Even if Broad Creed Mountain achieved complete victory in the other battlefields, with Feng Zhuan, Shi Tai, and the others all having their hands free, if they did not wrest back control of the Guardian Grand Formation, it would be very hard for them to help Yan Di. Yan Zhaoge sucked in a deep breath, and as soon as father is unable to hold on, all other victories would be meaningless as the overall situation would immediately collapse. We don't have much time left. He turned to look at Shi Tai. It's not that there isn't a way, but it's difficult. Because of external enemies, a change has occurred in the Guardian Grand Formation, thus allowing Xian Dongping to succeed. Now, we need to set things right. I have a way, but we need to split our forces into 3, carrying it out in 3 different places around Broad Creed Mountain. Yan Zhaoge said, those who carry it out must either have a sufficiently high cultivation base or be proficient in the variations of formations. I am willing to take one route, and eldest apprentice uncle can take the other. However, I don't know if there are enough people in the clan to take the 3rd route. Elder he is protecting the clan as well as Grand Master. How severe are Elder Zhang's injuries? Shi Tai looked at Feng Yunsheng and Xikong Qing. Junior apprentice brother Feng is suppressing the devilish domain grand formation, preventing the descent of the 9 underworlds, and is unable to come. If Elder Zhang's injuries are too severe, look for junior apprentice sister Fu. Yan Zhaoge now said to the 2 girls, I'll have to trouble the 2 of you. I have some new methods here to break the devilish formation and prevent the descent of the 9 underworlds. I need one of you to charge into the devilish domain grand formation and inform second apprentice uncle, while the other will go look for Elder Zhang and senior apprentice Aunt Fu, informing them of the method to correct the guardian grand formation. Feng Yunsheng and Xikong Qing exchanged glances, the 2 saying simultaneously, I will go to the devilish domain grand formation to look for senior apprentice uncle Feng. Charging into the devilish domain grand formation was clearly more dangerous. Yan Zhaoge pondered for a moment. Now is not the time for pleasantries. Junior apprentice sister Feng, go look for senior apprentice uncle Feng. Ride Pan Pan over. If you meet any enemies along the way, hide if you can. Junior apprentice sister Xikong, go look for Elder Zhang and senior apprentice Aunt Fu. Feng Yunsheng nodded. On the other side, Xikong Qing's gaze was resolute, her expression also not changing as she nodded obediently. Yan Zhaoge immediately told Feng Yunsheng the method to suppress the devilish domain grand formation. Feng Yunsheng didn't waste time on words. While there were still some areas where she didn't understand the workings of formations, she directly memorized it. Yan Zhaoge sucked in a deep breath. Be careful. You guys be careful too. Feng Yunsheng nodded. Now, every second counted. After confirming that she had memorized it, she leapt onto Pan Pan's body. Pan Pan also didn't dare to be lazy now as he spread his claws and shot off. Yan Zhaoge then said to Shi Tai and the others, the technique to correct the Guardian Grand Formation is not to be executed on Broad Creed Mountain itself. Otherwise, it would be destroyed by Xian Dongping at the first moment. Therefore, with the heaven, earth, and man as the foundation, it will be executed simultaneously in 3 places outside of Broad Creed Mountain. The specific locations will be determined by my calculations. After telling Shi Tai and Xikong Qing the 3 locations, he looked at Su Fei. This technique requires the cooperation of 2 people, one as the leader, the other as support. Therefore, senior apprentice brother Su, you will go with eldest apprentice uncle, acting as his support. After junior apprentice sister Xikong has found Elder Zhang or senior apprentice Aunt Fu, do the same. If Elder Zhang and senior apprentice Aunt Fu are both able to free themselves, then find another person to assist. With eldest apprentice uncle, senior apprentice Aunt Fu and Elder Zhang executing the technique, it will be easier to succeed this way. Su Fei and Xikong Qing nodded together. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head and said to Ah Hu, you assist me. Ah Hu nodded solemnly. Shi Tai looked at Yan Zhaoge. While you are proficient in the variations of formations, in the chaotic battle currently, there is actually no lack of Essence Spirit Martial Grandmasters and even Essence Talisman Martial Grandmasters. If the two of you were to encounter them, it would be dangerous. Chapter 294. I'll do my best to help everyone. Please give me your monthly votes and subscriptions. Thank you. Yan Zhaoge smiled emotionally. The entire Broad Creed Mountain is currently facing a great tribulation. Everyone's lives are like dead eggs, being in extreme danger. It is not just me. Don't worry, eldest martial uncle. I will also be careful and try to avoid contact with the enemy. I will hide if I can. After all, the most important thing now is to regain control of the mountain guarding formation. In terms of danger, junior sister Feng and junior sister Sikong are the same. You and senior brother Su are also facing danger. And in the entire Broad Creed Mountain, the person currently under the greatest pressure is my father. After all, Yan Di was restraining Yuan Tian and Xian Dongping with his own power, also obstructing them, preventing them from harming the others of Broad Creed Mountain. Looking in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain, Yan Zhaoge was very calm. The current him had long since become one with Broad Creed Mountain, enjoying the glory of the clan, enjoying the convenience of the clan's resources as well as the protection of the clan, shielding him from wind and rain. So when he needed to stand up and bear the hopes of the sect, he would naturally stand up. If there was no danger, he would charge forward. If there was danger, he would charge forward even more. He would never back down. Eldest martial uncle, senior martial brother Su, junior martial sister Sikong, all of you take care as well. After taking his leave of Shi Tai, Su Fei, and Sikong Qing, Yan Zhaoge immediately brought Ah Hu along, hurrying towards one of the 3 locations that he had determined. Time waits for no man. As Yan Zhaoge sped along, he proceeded carefully, avoiding others as much as possible. Currently, crooks and dragons were mixed together in the vicinity of Broad Creed Mountain, and under certain circumstances, it was hard to differentiate between friend and foe. In order to save as much time as possible, Yan Zhaoge was currently hurrying on with his journey. Heading south from Broad Creed Mountain, the outline of a city appeared on the plains. While they were already rather far away from Broad Creed Mountain, that terrifying aura of the 9 underworlds that shook one's soul could still be felt. Staying away from the demonic domain's great array did not have much effect on cultivators who had tempered themselves for a long time and had relatively firm wills. But to ordinary people, it still had the effect of confusing them. At this moment, the atmosphere in the city was restless and uneasy, and everyone was in a state of panic. While the people were frightened, they were also hostile to each other. The tense situation could break out at any moment, and panic could break out at any time. Yan Zhaoge speedily entered the city, the ordinary citizens completely unable to detect his presence. Within the city, there were Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners maintaining order, doing their best to calm the populace down. This place was one of the most important transportation hubs in the vicinity of Broad Creed Mountain, with many different kinds of resources being distributed here. The person currently in charge of this place was around 40 years of age, also a martial grandmaster of Broad Creed Mountain, named Hong Wen. While he was almost twice as old as Yan Zhaoge, in terms of seniority, the two were actually of the same generation. Senior apprentice brother Hong, please help clear out a piece of empty land in the west of the city, not letting ordinary citizens approach. Yan Zhaoge did not bother with pleasantries as he immediately said upon seeing him, I have an urgent need for it. Hong Wen didn't waste any time and immediately nodded. Leave it to me. While he was a mid-spirit vessel martial grandmaster, having entered the clan much earlier and being much older, Yan Zhaoge's position and authority in Broad Creed Mountain was extremely special, his authority equivalent to that of a first-seat elder. Therefore, while he did not quite understand what was going on, he still swiftly ordered people to help Yan Zhaoge clear the area. Hong Wen was also a capable and experienced person. While the masses had already been panicking in the first place, being relocated further exacerbating the atmosphere of panic and anxiety, Hong Wen still led his men to smoothly complete the mission that Yan Zhaoge had assigned to him. The two intersecting streets of the west of the city, one horizontal and one vertical, as well as the people in the nearby buildings, were all cleared out in the shortest possible time. Yan Zhaoge arrived at the intersection of the two streets, standing in the middle of the road. With a flip of his palm, jade light flickered. His sword was like the wind, the jade-green sword light dancing continuously in the air, leaving behind a mark in the air that did not dissipate for a long time. Very quickly, a massive pattern appeared before Yan Zhaoge. Sword in his right hand, Yan Zhaoge extended his left hand, spreading his fingers as he pressed downwards from the air. The massive rune that flickered with jade light landed on the ground. Swiveling his head to look at the surrounding buildings of the city, Yan Zhaoge sucked in a deep breath, raising the jade dragon sword with his right hand, pointing it towards the sky. Meanwhile, another spirit artifact appeared in his empty left hand, the flying thunder saber. After stepping into the martial grandmaster realm, Yan Zhaoge was already no longer limited to just a single low-grade spirit artifact. Two spirit artifacts, one pointing to the heavens, one pointing to the earth, Yan Zhaoge let out a light roar, streams of aura qi emanating from the acupoints of his entire body. The winds and clouds surged, with Yan Zhaoge at their center, gradually forming a massive hurricane. This hurricane of aura qi did not expand, always having Yan Zhaoge at its center, also using that massive jade talisman on the ground as its foundation. Gradually, the tornado also turned into a dark green color. Within the city, the restless and uneasy emotions of the numerous commoners seemed to have turned tangible, condensing together at this moment, converging towards that jade-green hurricane, being swept within. Afterwards, the jade light of the massive spirit talisman beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet gradually faded, turning pure white. As the spirit patterns twisted, their structure gradually became more and more complex, gradually expanding into a small, intricate, yet profound formation. At the core of the numerous spirit patterns converged, an ancient character appeared. Human. The meaning of this ancient character was human. Yan Zhaoge wanted to use a unique technique to wrest back control of Broad Creed Mountain's guardian grand formation from Xian Dongping's hands. It needed to be set up in a specific location, according to the positions of heaven, earth and human. The place that Yan Zhaoge was currently occupying was precisely the human position. Shi Tai and Su Fei, meanwhile, headed for the heaven position. He had Xikong Qing look for Fu Enshu and Elder Zhang, but for some reason, no one had come to the human position. Yan Zhaoge could only hope that they would be able to rush over to the earth position. This technique was not something that Yan Zhaoge could succeed on his own, it required all three of them to work together. As for whether or not he could completely succeed, reversing the situation, Yan Zhaoge also did not have complete confidence. The only thing he could do was to do what he had the ability to do to the best of his abilities. Ah Hu! Yan Zhaoge called out. Having already received instructions earlier, Ah Hu now went forward, crouching on the ground, pressing both hands on the spirit formation on the ground. The radiance on the human character grew brighter and brighter. But just at this time, a commotion suddenly resounded from the distance. Swiveling their heads to look, Yan Zhaoge and Ah Hu saw a group of people currently rapidly approaching. The one at their head was a late spirit vessel martial grandmaster. Yan Zhaoge recognized him as well. Similarly of Broad Creed Mountain, he was called Zhu Qian. It was just that the current Zhu Qian and the group of people behind him had clearly already fallen to the dark side. They rampaged their way, slaughtering all who stood in their way, their target being Hong Wen and the other Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners. What's going on? Yan Zhaoge knit his brows. Ah Hu thought for a moment before answering, he seems to have been on bad terms with Hong Wen in the past, having a personal grudge. From the looks of it, his mental state is leaning towards being lawless and out of control, coming to find trouble for revenge. Before he had finished speaking, Zhu Qian saw Yan Zhaoge, instantly ignoring Hong Wen, the blood-red light within his eyes surging madly. Zhu Qian howled in rage, people of Yuan Zhengfeng's lineage, to think that you would also have such a day. Chapter 295. Seeing Zhu Qian's look of enmity, his eyes exceptionally red, Yan Zhaoge couldn't help but feel a little baffled. Huh? Zhu Qian ignored even Hong Wen as he rushed towards Yan Zhaoge. Hong Wen, however, couldn't ignore him as he hurriedly drew his saber and blocked him. Executing the 8 sceneries spirit saber of Broad Creed Mountain's direct lineage, his Orochi rampaging with infinite variations, ingenious and agile, already having a deep understanding of it. Zhu Qian's eyes shone with a blood-red light as he said coldly, "You're courting death." He also chopped out with a saber, but it was of a different style, tough beyond compare, domineering as it was another saber art of the 8 extreme arts, chaotic elements uniting saber. As their saber chis clashed, Hong Wen's saber chi instantly broke apart unceasingly. The chaotic elements uniting saber was originally the fiercest martial art of the entire 8 extreme arts, and Zhu Qian's cultivation base was also higher than Hong Wen's. As his saber expanded, saber lights swept through the entire sky, resembling piercing strong gales that seemed able to cleave apart mountain peaks. Hong Wen was well aware of the difference in their cultivation bases. Also extremely rich in battle experience, he didn't clash head-on with Zhu Qian, just moving about unceasingly. While he didn't know whether Yan Zhaoge and Hu could defeat Zhu Qian, the two were currently clearly focused on setting up the formation, not having the time to care about anything else. Hong Wen only hoped to delay Zhu Qian's footsteps now, such that he was unable to approach the two. However, after falling to the dark side, Zhu Qian's strength had improved a step further as his chaotic elements uniting saber unceasingly chopped down towards Hong Wen. He and Hong Wen originally already had enmity between them. Now, he was even more merciless, his killing intent overflowing as he wanted to slay Hong Wen on the spot. Within the formation, most of Yan Zhaoge's energy was used on stimulating the human character, but some of it was also split off, falling on the battle between Zhu Qian and Hong Wen. Hu asked from the side, "Young master, what did this madman say just now?" Yan Zhaoge raised his brows slightly. "I have some impression. He can be considered Xian Dongping's direct disciple." Hu grinned. Being able to cultivate the 8 extreme supreme arts and become a great grandmaster, the sect didn't mistreat him, right? Seeing Hong Wen in danger, Yan Zhaoge raised his voice slightly, saying, "The clan indeed did not mistreat him, but this person is narrow-minded." When a fellow disciple offended him, he intentionally played dirty during a tempering session, nearly causing that fellow disciple to be heavily injured. First Martial Uncle is the first seat of the disciplinary hall, and he interfered in this matter. The evidence is conclusive, and he revoked his chance to be promoted to a core disciple. Yan Zhaoge said mildly. Afterwards, he continued to do similar things, committing crimes one after another until he completely lost the chance to have the black border on his blue robe. Hearing Yan Zhaoge's words, Zhu Qian, who was currently clashing with Hong Wen, was instantly greatly enraged, hacking Hong Wen into retreat with a saber before pointing his saber towards Yan Zhaoge. "A bunch of nonsense. You almost killed that brat surnamed Yi in the Sealing Dragon Abyss. Why didn't you receive any punishment? Why were you repeatedly rewarded afterwards? Isn't it precisely because you are Yan Di's son? Shi Tai and your father are both disciples of Yuan Zhengfeng." Yan Zhaoge rolled his eyes. "I have the blood-soul recollection ceremony to prove that I am definitely innocent, while you have conclusive evidence to prove that you definitely broke the clan's rules. If the two of us were treated the same, wouldn't that be treating the clan's rules as child's play?" Zhu Qian's eyes were bloodshot as he spat. "Pooh, it must be Shi Tai who shielded you, helping you to give false testimony." Yan Zhaoge smiled, shaking his head. "What you think is your own business. Sadly, it is not the truth that you say." The saber light in Zhu Qian's hands lit up as he suddenly chopped fiercely towards Yan Zhaoge. "Talkative brat, I'll first slaughter you before we talk." Yan Zhaoge's expression did not change as the jade-green hurricane around him rotated, instantly deflecting Zhu Qian's chaotic elements uniting saber. Currently, As the hurricane rotated, those below the Essence Spirit Martial Grandmaster realm would be hard-pressed to break through it. While Zhu Qian also possessed a low-grade spirit artifact, also being at the third level of the Martial Grandmaster realm, the late spirit vessel stage, he was still unable to break through the obstruction of the hurricane, injuring Yan Zhaoge. Within his yellowed eyes, a blood-red light surged madly as his entire person appeared even more frenzied. The power of the spirit artifact saber within his hands increased a step further, saber light flickering as he wanted to forcibly break through the jade-green hurricane. Yan Zhaoge watched this scene calmly. "Killing me, you don't seem to be able to do it." The calmer Yan Zhaoge's expression was, the more Zhu Qian felt his heart burn. However, seeing that he was truly powerless to break through the obstruction of the jade-green hurricane, while Zhu Qian's heart was filled with killing intent, his mind instead calmed somewhat. He said coldly, "If you hide in this turtle shell, I'll kill everyone else first." Zhu Qian swiveled his head, roaring fiercely, "Kill everyone in the city, not leaving a single one alive." The others who had come along with him and were currently clashing with the martial practitioners of the plaza were being held up by Hong Wen and the others. Zhu Qian prepared to withdraw and take action himself. However, now he suddenly discovered that he had actually also been sucked in by that jade-green hurricane, unable to extricate himself. Looking at him, Yan Zhaoge suddenly laughed. "That's why I say that many times, it's not as you think that things will really be as you think they are." As the jade-green hurricane expanded, it had already completely trapped Zhu Qian, only able to advance, unable to retreat. Zhu Qian's ferocity was also stimulated as he howled madly, continuing to charge towards Yan Zhaoge. However, that jade-green hurricane resembled shackles, also tightening more and more as it obstructed Zhu Qian's movements. Zhu Qian was enraged, yet could do nothing about it. Until he suddenly discovered that the jade-green hurricane before him was gradually turning golden. Meanwhile, the runes beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet also turned from pure white to gold. Zhu Qian suddenly felt his body loosen, the hurricane imprisoning him suddenly relaxing as it expanded outwards. While it still obstructed his path of retreat, it no longer obstructed his charge towards Yan Zhaoge. He roared like a tiger, the chaotic elements uniting saber that had accumulated an innumerable amount of despondency, chopping viciously towards Yan Zhaoge. This saber caused Zhu Qian to suddenly feel as if he had been enlightened. Having been stifled for so long, now that he could finally relax, he had never felt so carefree before. Zhu Qian could be sure that this saber had surpassed his previous limits, being the strongest saber he had ever unleashed in his entire life. While he had long since heard of Yan Zhaoge's shocking strength, Zhu Qian did not believe that, at his unprecedented peak, a late spirit vessel expert, he would still be defeated by an early spirit vessel expert. However, just at this time, a jade light flashed before his eyes. Yan Zhaoge held the jade dragon sword in his right hand, a big dipper sword, stably sealing Zhu Qian's saber. At the same time, Yan Zhaoge released the flying thunder saber with his left hand, raising it upwards, flipping his wrist. A terrifying force that resembled the overturning heavens and earth descended towards Zhu Qian's head. Heavenly Broad Creed Palm. Zhu Qian raised his left hand, his entire body's aura qi surging as he blocked this terrifying palm. However, before he could regain his wits, Yan Zhaoge executed the heavenly broad creed palm with finger-flicking shocking thunder, immediately exerting force a second time. The terrifying force directly crushed Zhu Qian. Yan Zhaoge said mildly, "Did you think that the hurricane blocking my path just now was because I felt that I couldn't beat you?" Chapter 296. What did it feel like to be pressured by Mount Tai? Zhu Qian had never tried it before, but he felt like he was currently facing the pressure of Mount Tai. As Yan Zhaoge's terrifying palm pressed down, the bones of Zhu Qian's entire body emitted cracking sounds. From the pores of Zhu Qian's entire body, terrifying fine blood sweat seeped out, dyeing him completely red. Clenching his teeth, Zhu Qian stimulated his aura qi. Within his dantian, his aura chi that was filled with spirituality returned to its original simplicity, forming an existence like the great earth, resembling fertile soil, able to nurture even more miraculous power. What Zhu Qian had gained from cultivating in the martial Tao, along with the spirituality of the heavens and the earth, transformed into a spirit seed, being nourished within that spirit soil. Finally, the spirit seed gradually underwent a qualitative change, resembling a seed sprouting, beginning to be reborn. A powerful force was born from this, forming the powerful foundation of a late spirit vessel martial grandmaster. A martial practitioner's true martial spirit was already gradually beginning to take an embryonic form. Zhu Qian stimulated his spirit seed, power surging madly as he wanted to prop up the sky overhead once more. However, Yan Zhaoge did not give him this chance, exerting force even faster than Zhu Qian. Pushed by finger-flicking shocking thunder, Yan Zhaoge's third strike of the heavenly broad creed palm mightily descended, first defeating the power that Zhu Qian had just unleashed, nipping it in the bud. A violent force that seemed like the heavens collapsing and the earth collapsing completely destroyed all of Zhu Qian's resistance and hope. Zhu Qian's arm was jolted away, Yan Zhaoge's palm descending, smashing his head into smithereens. As though he had done something insignificant, Yan Zhaoge ignored the collapsed Zhu Qian before him, instead stomping his foot forcefully. Accompanied by Yan Zhaoge stomping on the ground, the golden spirit patterns continued circulating. In the air above his head, complex, profound spirit patterns also appeared, resembling a greatly shrunken version of Broad Creed Mountain's Guardian Grand Formation. These spirit patterns merged with the spirit patterns beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet, before streams of qi expanded in all directions. The streams of qi extended far into the distance, soundlessly merging with the true clear qi grand formation. Standing on the golden spirit patterns, Yan Zhaoge could only feel his vision changing somewhat, as though he was looking down from the clouds. Human position, established. Yan Zhaoge let out a long breath, not relaxing as he instead made use of his technique to link up with the clear qi grand formation, analyzing this massive formation a step further. Through his conscious and diligent tutoring, Yan Zhaoge's attainments in formations were rather outstanding. However, as one of the 6 great sacred grounds of the 8 extremities world, Broad Creed Mountain's Guardian Grand Formation naturally had its own extraordinary aspects. While it was powerful, its formation theory was also profound. After Yan Di had taken over the clear qi grand formation from Yuanzheng Feng, Yan Zhaoge also being his son. However, some rules could not be disregarded as he would not easily pass down the profundities of the clear qi grand formation to Yan Zhaoge. At the end of the day, Yan Zhaoge's understanding of the clear qi grand formation was limited. Now, he had to make the best use of his time to extrapolate it. However, to Yan Zhaoge, this clear qi grand formation was also not completely untraceable. Its source still originates from the legacy of the Grand Clear lineage. Still, through the improvements made by generations of Broad Creed Mountain's experts, there are already many differences. Yan Zhaoge gradually understood what an intricate formation. Having suffered 2 anti-suns that had the effect of breaking the formation earlier, the abnormalities in the formation were rather severe. However, it can still be put right. Yan Zhaoge gazed in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain, at the same time unceasingly deducing the changes in the formation. It would be rather difficult for father to wrest back control of the formation. However, we can strip control of the formation from Xian Dongping's hands, shifting it to one of our heaven, earth and human positions. While Yan Zhaoge was deducing the formation, Hu was also free. However, he did not go far, instead remaining where he was, guarding Yan Zhaoge as he remained vigilant against all disturbances in the surroundings. Hongwen led a group of Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners, scattering in all directions to kill the decimating abyss martial practitioners who had entered the city alongside Zhu Qian. As Yan Zhaoge analyzed the formation, his heart suddenly jolted slightly. Standing on the human position, he could feel yet another force merging within the clear qi grand formation. That force originated from his own technique, the earth position of the heaven, earth and human positions. Yan Zhaoge closed his eyes, his mind sinking into the formation. Within the darkness of his consciousness, numerous spirit patterns that flickered with white light surfaced. A golden speck of light appeared beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet, located at the periphery of the white light formation, representing the human position that Yan Zhaoge was in. In the distance, at the other end of the white light formation, another golden speck of light lit up. Is it Senior Apprentice Aunt Fu or Elder Zhang? Yan Zhaoge felt relieved. His plan had already succeeded by 2/3. Opening his eyes, Yan Zhaoge felt that terrifying aura that originated from the 9 underworlds and confused one's mind seemed to be slowly weakening. Gazing into the distance in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain, Yan Zhaoge could vaguely see that the black devilish qi that shot into the skies and suffused Broad Creed Mountain had dimmed somewhat. Good. Yan Zhaoge nodded, letting out a long breath. From the looks of it, Junior Apprentice Sister Feng has also successfully passed on my technique of suppressing the devilish domain grand formation to Second Apprentice Aunt. With Second Apprentice Aunt's cultivation base as well as her own understanding of the decimating abyss and the 9 underworlds, there was immediately such an effect. The earlier disadvantageous situation was currently being successfully reversed bit by bit. Yan Zhaoge stood in the middle of the street, surrounding the massive rune. Numerous spirit patterns extended outwards, connecting with Broad Creed Mountain's grand formation. Feeling the various changes in the circulation of the formation, Yan Zhaoge unceasingly calculated within his heart. The human position and position are already in place. As long as the heavenly position is in place as well, I will be able to reverse the situation in a single stroke. The human character beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet appeared a bright golden color, as though the wills of countless people had been gathered here. Under the combined effect of the clear qi grand formation and the human character, the originally restless and uneasy hearts of this city had now gradually calmed down. While they still felt terrified, they would not continue to be influenced by the aura of the 9 underworlds, infinitely magnifying the negative thoughts in their hearts. Yan Zhaoge gazed in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain, then turned to the other side. There, in Yan Zhaoge's projection of the 3 talents technique, was where the heaven character should be set up, being handled by Shi Tai and Su Fei. However, currently feeling the changes in the clear qi grand formation, Yan Zhaoge saw that Shi Tai and the others had still yet to successfully establish the heavenly position of the 3 talents positions. The 3 talents positions had to circulate simultaneously in order to be effective, wresting back their clan's guardian grand formation from Xian Dongping's hands in a single stroke. Comparatively speaking, Shi Tai's path was the strongest and most stable path that he had predicted. However, with no signs of activity even after so long, Yan Zhaoge's heart gradually rose up. Before the 3 talents technique was fully activated, he could not leave the human position on his own. Now, he could only wait where he was. Yan Zhaoge's brows were knit tightly as he gazed in the direction of the heavenly position, his expression solemn as never before. The light shot straight into the sky, forming a faint pillar of light in the sky. Shi Tai raised his hand, and with him as the center, a tornado formed, enveloping this lonely peak. Under the envelopment of the tornado, streams of spiritual qi in the world were drawn over and gathered unceasingly in this place. The talisman patterns twisted and gradually expanded into a small and profound formation. The patterns of the formation flickered with a pure white luster. At the core of the formation runes, an ancient character appeared. Oh my God! The meaning of these ancient words was heaven. Seeing this, Xue Fei knew that it was time for him to make a move. He immediately knelt on one knee and pressed his palms on the rock at the top of the mountain. The radiance of the heaven character became even brighter at this moment. Ying Longtu stood to the side in confusion, looking curiously at his master and senior brother's actions. As time passed, the flickering radiance of the spirit patterns gradually turned from pure white to golden. Shi Tai and Xue Fei both raised their spirits. According to Yan Zhaoge's words, this meant that they were about to succeed. Now, however, Shi Tai said calmly, according to Zhaoge, the current situation is actually already on the right track. His gaze swept between Xue Fei and Ing Longtu. While two people are still needed to maintain the technique, Xue Fei and Longtu, the two of you can also do it, just that it will take a little longer. Hearing his words, Xue Fei's pupils abruptly dilated. Enemies are attacking. Shi Tai's face that was firm as a boulder did not change in the slightest. There are people approaching this place with ill intentions. 3 people, all late essence talisman martial grandmasters. Hearing his words, Xue Fei's gaze was firm and heavy, but his expression also turned grave. Shi Tai said, I will go block the enemies. Xue Fei, make the best use of the time to tell Longtu the method. You will take over my position as the leader, with Longtu assisting you. He looked earnestly at Xue Fei. The bigger picture is the most important. We must definitely wrest back the clear qi grand formation. Xue Fei could not conceal the worry within his eyes, but he did not waste time on words, his expression incomparably grave as he exhaled, this disciple will do his best. Shi Tai nodded, his figure leaping as he left the peak of the mountain. He flew at an extreme speed, doing his best to distance himself from the mountain peak where the heaven character was, taking the initiative to meet the invading enemies. After a short while, Shi Tai halted, standing in mid-air as he gazed quietly into the distance. On the horizon, 3 streaks of light flickered, very quickly arriving before Shi Tai. Shi Tai's gaze swept across the 3 people before him, his expression devoid of sorrow or joy as it was calm as still water. The 3 of you, long time no see. He recognized all 3 of his opponents. One of them, a gray-bearded old man, was even incomparably familiar. It was precisely Elder Wang of Broad Creed Mountain, of the same generation as Yuanjing Feng, Xian Dongping, and the others, having entered the clan even earlier. Elder Wang had been the first to be exposed by the Heavenly Thunder Hall, his identity as a spy of the Decimating Abyss had been exposed, and he had also been the strongest Decimating Abyss martial practitioner of Broad Creed Mountain before Xian Dongping. Afterwards, this old man had been imprisoned in the Heaven-Sealing Gorge. Today, after Xian Dongping had heavily wounded the first seat Elder Gong of the Heaven-Sealing Gorge, he had released all the major criminals imprisoned within, with Elder Wang as their leader. Looking over, Shi Tai couldn't help but feel desolate. He saw that Elder Wang's eyes were yellow, a blood-red light shooting out of them, shockingly having already completely fallen to the dark side. Beside Elder Wang was a black-robed old man, white hair and a youthful face, yet not having the air of a transcendent being at all, similarly having completely fallen to the dark side. Shi Tai also recognized this person. He was a remnant elder of Black Nightmare Mountain, named Yang Nye. Currently, Black Nightmare Mountain had a total of 2 late essence talisman martial grandmasters, attacking Broad Creed Mountain together this time. One of them had already been killed by Broad Creed Mountain's Grand Elder, the transcending mortality martial grandmaster Zhang Kuan, with a single heavenly Broad Creed palm. Yang Nye was the other, currently coming before Shi Tai. The third person was the Scaly Dragon King, Sima Chui, who had previously clashed with Shi Tai a few times. Elder Wang looked at Shi Tai, his face indifferent, while Sima Chui's gaze fell on the wound on Shi Tai's chest. Shi Tai, even if your entire body is made of metal, how many nails can you still hit now? Yang Nye looked coldly at Shi Tai. Broad Creed Mountain will definitely be destroyed today. No one will be able to stop it. The terrifying pressure of 3 late essence talisman martial grandmasters enveloped the heavens and covered the earth, virtually causing space itself to freeze. Against 3 alone, Shi Tai's expression did not change as he calmly raised his arms, flashing his fists. A voice that was firm as iron resounded between the heavens and the earth. Dream on. Chapter 298. Suddenly, a dazzling light lit up between heaven and earth. Countless talismans flew about, colliding with each other, destroying large amounts of them. The remaining talismans were divided into 4 groups and gathered into a large number of talisman arrays. Then, as the talisman arrays intertwined, 4 huge talisman arrays appeared in the air. Shi Tai's body was surrounded by a golden altar. The size of the altar continued to shrink, becoming more and more condensed. From it, an indestructible true intent of the martial Tao that could not be destroyed by 10,000 tribulations emanated. Opposite him, Elder Wang, Sima Chui and Yang Nye each erected their own heavenly altars. 3 altars, one white, one black, and one purple, suppressed the 4 directions. A saber appeared in the hands of Black Nightmare Mountain's longtime elder, Yang Nye. No saber light could be seen, only boundless whirlwinds in pitch-black darkness. He was the first to attack Shirtai, the supreme technique of the Black Nightmare Mountain's direct lineage, the West Pole Purple Chi, activated to the extreme. The Purple Chi Sky Wave Saber, with the power to split the heavens and the endless Black Nightmare Storm, chopped down on Shirtai's head. The profound light divine armor on Shirtai's body lit up as he did not dodge or evade, meeting it with a punch, forcibly clashing with the extreme West Purple Chi that Yang Nye had activated with the high-grade spirit artifact, the Splendor Nightmare Saber. Both sides collided head-on. Boundless golden light and purple chi exploded and dispersed in the surroundings, sweeping up waves of violent gales that swept wildly in all directions. Above Shirtai, Elder Wang's figure appeared, a terrifying heavenly broad creed palm descending from the heavens. The sky seemed to have become shorter in an instant. Shirtai exhaled and shouted. His right fist exerted force, and as he pushed Yang Nye back, he raised his left hand. His left hand, bright as Vajra, blocked Elder Wang's heavenly broad creed palm with the momentum of supporting the heavens. As vast as the sky, the forceful and domineering palm energy pressed down continuously. However, Shirtai was like a pillar that supported the heavens, unmoving and unwavering. The 2 palms collided. Shirtai's eyes shone with a divine light, and with a low roar, his left hand continued to move upwards. He actually forcefully pushed up the lowered sky dome once more. When Elder Wang and Yang Nye saw this scene, they were also moved. One of Broad Creed Mountain's 3 supreme arts, the heavenly Broad Creed Palm, was actually not a match for the Vajra body of the 8 extreme arts. It wasn't that the heavenly Broad Creed Palm had been defeated by the Vajra body, but that Shirtai was stronger than Elder Wang. The sky was about to collapse, but when Shirtai exerted his strength, the falling sky was lifted up again. What was even more terrifying was that he did not just lift them up. As his strength continued to rise, the sky actually showed signs of overturning in another direction. It was not the terrifying power of the heavenly broad creed palm that overturned the heavens and the earth, but that Shirtai wanted to overturn this very sky. The white formation heavenly altar around Elder Wang's body suddenly started to tilt, about to be flipped over by Shirtai from below. Just at this moment, a black light flashed. Like a strange black dragon that had suddenly appeared, it stabbed towards Shirtai from a tricky angle. The power was condensed and completely focused on a single point, forming an incomparably terrifying destructive force. Its target was the old wound on Shirtai's chest. Shirtai's gaze was like lightning as he punched out with his right hand, once again deflecting Yang Nye's Hua Yen saber. Retracting his left hand that was suppressing Elder Wang, his movements seeming slow, but accurately punching out, deflecting Sima Chui's sneak attack. The strange black dragon was hit in the neck by the stone, and it let out a cry of pain, as if its spine had been broken. After deflecting Sima Chui's spear with his left fist, Shirtai spread his fingers, the movements of his hand becoming light and slow as it slowly moved. A golden ring of light appeared, its entire body like Vajra, full and flawless, its center empty, as if able to contain all things. Sima Chui wanted to retract his spear and change his stance, but discovered that the black dragon formed of his martial true intent and spirit artifact was trapped by that golden ring of light, actually unable to be retracted. Shirtai exerted force with his left hand, that black dragon howling mournfully, unable to break free as it was unceasingly devoured and absorbed by the golden ring of light. The massive force drew Sima Chui's body towards Shirtai involuntarily. Either he let go of his spirit artifact, or he was dragged over by Shirtai. Just as Sima Chui was unable to stabilize his body, Elder Wang and Yang Nye attacked once more, dealing a blow to Shirtai. As Yang Nye chopped out with his saber, the entire horizon turned purple, boundless strong gales surging together, enveloping the entire sky. As Yang Nye chopped out with his saber, the entire horizon turned purple, boundless strong gales surging together, covering the entire sky. As his saber descended, the purple sky seemed to transform into a saber light, chopping towards Shirtai. Numerous black nightmare storms swept within the purple sky, appearing brutal and terrifying. Shirtai instantly seemed to be situated within the Great Western Desert. On the other side, Elder Wang's palms descended once more. Shirtai's gaze was firm as a monolith, not wavering in the slightest. The golden heavenly altar merged completely with him, his entire person resembling a Vajra, infinite light emanating from within his body. The profound light divine armor on his body flickered, forcibly resisting Yang Nye's purple chi heavenly wave saber, his left hand not ceasing as it supported Sima Chue forward, before his right fist mightily descended, striking Sima Chue right in the chest. The black heavenly altar mightily shattered, fresh blood spurting madly from Sima Chue's mouth. Circulating the stone metal Vajra body to the maximum, forcibly resisting Yang Nye's saber, before his body tilted slightly, avoiding his vitals as he was struck by Elder Wang's palm once more. The heavenly broad creed palm's vigorous, tyrannical, boundless majestic force caused Shirtai's figure to shake, resembling a mountain collapsing. Blood leaked slightly from the corner of Shirtai's mouth. Yang Nye roared furiously, "The Iron Lion is going to become a dead lion today." As the purple chi of the extreme western desert surged madly, the light tiger saber within his hands completely transformed into a hurricane. Countless terrifying gales that seemed able to cleave the heavens and split the earth streaked through the horizon, madly hacking towards Shirtai, leaving behind numerous tragic wounds on the profound light divine armor and Shirtai himself. There was no fear within Shirtai's gaze, no wavering. However, there was something that had never appeared before. Berserk. Rampaging. Bloodthirsty. I'll bury all of you here. Even if I have to use my own flesh, blood and bones. A wild roar shook the 9 heavens, resembling an enraged lion, madly roaring. Releasing Sima Chue's spear, Shirtai crossed his fists, repelling Yang Nye's saber light before his figure abruptly spun. Striding forward, resembling a descended divinity, he arrived before Elder Wang. The image of Vajra on Shirtai's body vanished, only his fists being incomparably bright. A fist descended, dispersing Elder Wang's heavenly broad creed palm. Another fist descended, directly shattering Elder Wang's heavenly altar of talismans. Elder Wang stared wide-eyed. He had never seen such a Vajra body before. This was completely abandoning his defense, abandoning the essence of the Vajra body's attack and defense as one, concentrating all of his power on his fists. The Vajra body of the past, indestructible. The Vajra body of the present, invincible. Shirtai completely disregarded himself, forcibly withstanding Yang Nye's full-powered saber with his profound light divine armor once more. The profound light divine armor was finally unable to bear the burden, shattering mightily. However, Shirtai's fist descended once more, mightily striking Elder Wang's chest, causing this former longtime elder of Plaza Mountain's chest to directly collapse inwards. Just as Shirtai was about to turn and deal with Yang Nye, a streak of dark light appeared once more. The strange black dragon roared madly, mightily striking the old wound on Shirtai's chest. Shirtai spat out a mouthful of blood, his entire body penetrated by the spear. The scaly dragon king, Sima Chue's eyes turned yellow, a blood-red light shooting out of them as he stared fixedly at Shirtai. Having always been plagued by devilish intent earlier, he had finally completely fallen to the dark side, making use of this to greatly alleviate the injuries that Shirtai had caused earlier, thus delivering this fatal blow. However, meeting Shirtai's gaze, he could not help but shudder. The wild lion roared once more, its destructive fists descending from above with the momentum of ripping the heavens apart, one left, one right, striking the chests of Sima Chue and Yang Nye. The 2 late essence talisman experts simultaneously spurted out blood, dyeing the sky red. Chapter 299. Tai punched out with both fists, heavily injuring Sima Chui, who had just recovered some of his vitality, apart from Yang Nye. However, his three opponents had also become ruthless at this moment. With wild roars, they once again attacked Tai, fighting to the death. As Yang Nye coldly shouted, purple light surged from his body, turning into a purple gale that pounced towards Tai. Sima Chui gripped his spear tightly, blocking Tai's figure as he charged down towards the ground below. Elder Wang also struggled to charge forward. "We definitely won't let you destroy Broad Creed Mountain." As Tai roared, he blocked Elder Wang's iron palm with his left hand and punched out, directly blasting the head of this martial uncle who had fallen to the 9 hells. However, his figure was entangled by Yang Nye's saber light. The sky above his head had completely turned purple. The earth beneath him was scorching hot, turning 1,000 miles of fertile soil into sand. Between the heavens and the earth, there was a violent black tornado, sweeping up Tai's body and causing him to fall towards the ground that had already become a desert. Tai suddenly reached out, grabbed Yang Nye's right hand that was holding the saber, and dragged him down. Yang Nye did not dodge. He pushed his strength to the limit, and beams of purple light shot into the desert below. As the mournful radiance flickered, it turned into a series of purple runes that formed a ruthless formation. Then, boundless purple light soared into the sky like countless sharp blades, piercing into Tai's back. As if he could not feel the pain, Tai raised his right fist and punched towards Yang Nye. Yang Nye was caught by Tai's left hand and couldn't dodge. He could only watch as Tai's right fist landed on his chest. The destructive power was completely condensed into a single point. Tai's fist was like a peerless divine weapon as it punched through Yang Nye's body. Blood, flesh, organs, bones, everything was smashed to pieces. Yang Nye's eyes widened as he spat out a mouthful of blood, splattering all over Tai's face. Black Nightmare Mountain's final 9th level Martial Grandmaster, a late Essence Talisman Martial Grandmaster, had died with everlasting regret. After killing Yang Nye with a single punch, Tai's figure was also struck by the spear in Sima Chui's hand, causing him to fall into the desert below. That long spear was like a nail, nailing Tai to the ground. Even with Yang Nye's death, the purple light array still played its final role. Rays of purple light flew up, like purple chains, wrapping around Tai's body in the long spear, imprisoning him in place. Of his three opponents, the only one still alive, Sima Chui, stood in mid-air, looking down at Tai lying on the ground below. At this moment, Tai's entire body was like a stone statue that was on the verge of shattering, dim, mottled, and dilapidated. Only his left fist was still flashing with a bright light. Sima Chui opened his mouth to speak, but first spat out a mouthful of blood. His injuries worsened, and his situation was extremely bleak. Even though he's injured, he can still kill 2 of them despite fighting 1 against 3. Sima Chui coughed non-stop, his gaze fixed on Tai, the one surnamed you live up to the name of the Iron Lion King. Tai's face was expressionless. He didn't say a word as he struggled to stand up. However, the chains of purple light bound him tightly. That black spear that had pierced through his body and nailed him to the ground, connected with the purple chains, erupted with even more ferocious power. It was fine if Tai did not move, but as soon as he tried to move, his body instantly suffered a blow. Sima Chui's gaze fell on Tai's left hand. "If I want to kill you now, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. However, I have to get close to you. However, if I get close to you, I know that you still have the strength for a final blow. If I want to kill you, I am destined to accompany you in death." Sima Chui's face was ashen as he shook his head, raising his head to look at the distant mountain peak that towered into the clouds. "Over there, what the hell are you all doing?" "I don't know, and am also not interested in knowing. However, I do know that what you all want to do, I'll make it impossible for you all to succeed." While coughing blood, Sima Chui laughed with difficulty. "If I kill you, you have the ability to drag me down with you. If I don't kill you, I won't die. Well, you won't die either, I can ruin your plans. It might not even be your personal matter, but that of your entire Broad Creed Mountain, ha 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 ha. The light in Shirtai's eyes surged madly as he grasped the black spear, but the black light and the purple light mightily struck his body, locking it in place, leaving him unable to move. Sima Chui laughed, slowly grinded out. If you spend a bit more time, you can break the formation and pull out my Yin Dragon Spear, but you might not be as fast as me. Laughing loudly, Sima Chui flew towards that lone peak. On the lone peak, Xue Fei stood at the center of the heaven character, his hands raised high towards the heavens, his palms flipped, as if holding up the heavens. Beside him, Yinglongtu knelt on one knee, both hands pressing down on the heaven character. The golden hurricane surrounded the two, growing stronger and stronger, completely enveloping the entire lone peak, sweeping the surrounding spiritual chi of the heavens and earth within. As the two worked hard, the heaven-shocking, earth-shaking great battle in the distance took place. Xue Fei and Yinglongtu both gazed nervously in that direction. Suddenly, after an intense collision, the battle seemed to have calmed. Following that, a powerful aura approached Xue Fei and Yinglongtu. Chapter 300. Shirtai's hands exerted strength as he slowly pulled out the high-grade spirit weapon, the Yin Dragon Spear, that was nailing him to the ground. Every time the Yin Dragon Spear was pulled out an inch, Shirtai's body would have to endure tremendous pain. The spear connected with the array on the ground and fused into one, turning into the shackles of the lion. These shackles were embedded into his flesh, and every attempt to remove them would cause Shirtai's own flesh to be mangled. Shirtai's expression did not change in the slightest as he used all his strength to pull out the spear. However, just as Sima Chui had said, this was too slow. After breaking free, although Shirtai still had the strength to fight again, Xue Fei, Yinglongtu, and the others could not wait any longer. Beneath the lone peak, Sima Chui's strength grew stronger and stronger, even beginning to penetrate through the golden hurricane, striking towards Xue Fei and Yinglongtu at the top of the mountain. Streaks of black dragon-like energy fiercely pounced towards the Tian, Talisman and Xue Fei on the mountain top. The difference in their cultivation bases was too great. Even though Sima Chui was heavily injured, he was still not someone he could withstand. Xue Fei was well aware of this, but he showed no fear on his face as he resolutely shielded Yinglongtu behind him. The only thing that worried Xue Fei was that the mountain under his feet was shaking, and the Tian Talisman was in danger. With the heaven, earth and human tripartite laws hard to establish, he would be unable to wrest back control over the clear Qi Grand Formation from Xian Dongping's hands. In the outside world, powerful enemies like the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall were about to pounce over. Broad Creed Mountain was in danger. Yinglongtu asked blankly, "Senior apprentice brother, where's master?" Before he finished speaking, a majestic lion roar sounded in the distance. At the foot of the mountain, Sima Chui looked back in shock, his gaze piercing through space to land on that desert. Shirtai, who had been nailed to the ground by the Yin Dragon Spear, gripped the shaft of the Yin Dragon Spear with his right hand and raised his left high up. Shirtai's left hand clenched into a fist. Resplendent light condensed and illuminated the surroundings. In the next instant, Shirtai's left fist stirred up a destructive power and smashed into the shaft of the Yin Dragon Spear. With a sound like muffled thunder, the high-grade spirit artifact, the Yin Dragon Spear, was forcefully broken by Shirtai. The Yin Dragon Spear was broken, and the purple chains and black tornadoes around it were no longer able to bind Shirtai's body. But at this moment, the berserk power also exploded and shook Shirtai. Shirtai remained silent, his body rising upwards. Creak, creak, an ear-piercing sound of friction came from the broken spear shaft and his body once again, causing one's heart to tremble. Sima Chui looked at Shirtai in disbelief. "You're crazy. This way, you're dead for sure." With Shirtai as the center, the wind blew across the surrounding desert. Amidst the billowing dust, Shirtai stood up once again. It was like a statue of a deity that would never fall. Even if it was broken, even if it was crooked, it would still stand tall in the end. Grasping the shaft of the Een dragon spear, Shirtai glared fiercely at Sima Chui. The upper half of the shaft of the Een dragon spear transformed into a bolt of black lightning, shooting wildly towards Sima Chui. Sima Chui wanted to dodge, but discovered that even as he wrestled with the Tian character and the golden tornado, he was also sucked in by the Tian character and the golden tornado. Unable to move, Sima Chui's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He could only extend a hand in front of him to block the incoming black light. Boom! An astonishing brilliance erupted from the black light. It was as hard as diamond and as resplendent as a shooting star. Sima Chui's arm was directly shattered, followed by his body. Shattering, shattering, shattering again, mightily exploding. The last of the three late Essence Talisman Martial Grandmasters, the Scaly Dragon King, Sima Chui, was slain on the spot by the Iron Lion King Shirtai. Losing Sima Chui's restraint, the golden tornado mightily regained its normal form, its power unleashed to the maximum. The Tian character completely merged with the spirit patterns in the air above the lone peak, countless formless streams of qi extending outwards, merging with broad Creed Mountain's clear qi grand formation. Of the three positions of heaven, earth and human, the final heaven position was finally established. Seeing that the Tian character had finally been completely established, Xue Fei had no time to think as he dashed down the mountain towards Shirtai, Ying Longtu following closely behind him. In the distant desert, on the great earth, a figure stood erect, resembling a modeled statue. The statue's entire body was riddled with cracks, riddled with scars, mottled and dilapidated, as though it had experienced innumerable storms. However, it still stood there with an unyielding aura, resembling a pillar that held up the heavens. A sorrowful look appeared on Xue Fei's face as he knelt before this figure, silent and speechless. Shirtai opened his eyes, raising his head with difficulty to look towards the sky. Streak after streak of light shot behind him in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain. Shirtai wanted to swivel his head to look in the direction of Broad Creed Mountain, but he was already unable to do so. However, a few scenes still surfaced before his eyes, scenes that existed in the depths of his memories, engraved into his soul, bringing him along through the long passage of time. His parents had died early, and he had struggled to live on. Little Shi Jun extended his chubby little hands towards him. The scenes within Shirtai's mind finally came to a halt here. In the distance, on the lone mountain where the heaven character was, a golden hurricane gathered the spiritual qi of the surrounding area, connecting with the clear qi grand formation. Within the air, numerous spirit patterns lit up, the clear qi grand formation shaking once more. This meant that his position had already been established. The three intersected, the clear qi grand formation changing once more. Shirtai smiled slightly, slowly closing his eyes. Chapter 301. Within the city where the human character was, Yan Zhaoge stood on the rune, his eyes closed. Within the darkness of space, within the white light formation, two specks of golden light already flickered together with Yan Zhaoge's current position. Only the light that represented the heavenly seat had yet to light up. Yan Zhaoge waited patiently, but now, his heart suddenly jolted. Opening his eyes, Yan Zhaoge lowered his head, seeing that on the back of his left hand, the devilish mark that had originally been about to completely dissipate had suddenly grown much heavier. Eldest apprentice uncle. Yan Zhaoge's heart thumped. The devilish mark growing heavier was not because of the 9 underworlds, but because something had happened to Shirtai, who had sealed the 9 underworlds together with him. Now, Yan Zhaoge felt the clear qi grand formation circulate mightily. Within his consciousness, within the white light formation, a third speck of light finally lit up. The heavenly seat had finally been established. Heaven, earth and human returned to their positions, working together on the clear qi grand formation. The clear qi grand formation shook intensely. With the sky above Broad Creed Mountain as their center, a great amount of spirit patterns flickered and lit up, extending and expanding unceasingly in all directions. The heavens and the earth seemed to turn illusory once more, resembling a painting as it distorted violently. Yan Zhaoge forcibly suppressed the worry in his heart, his palms coming together before abruptly separating, one upwards and one downwards, striking out simultaneously. One palm towards the heavens, one towards the earth, with Yan Zhaoge as the crux, the spiritual chi flow of the clear chi grand formation abruptly changed directions. Still battling with Yan Di in the foreign dimension above Broad Creed Mountain, Xian Dongping immediately felt that something was wrong. Within his eyes and the palms of his hands, a total of 4 runes shattered at the same time. However hard Xian Dongping tried, the control over the clear chi grand formation had left him at this moment. Within the city, Yan Zhaoge let out a long roar, his palms coming together once more after having been separated. Beneath the effects of the heaven, earth and human runes, the clear chi grand formation within the sky instantly grew calm, returning to normal. Yan Zhaoge immediately reinforced the power of the clear chi grand formation where the heaven character was, but was unable to succeed. In order to gather the power of the formation and control it, one either had to be proficient in the art of formations or have a high enough cultivation. Neither Shui Fei nor Ying Longtu fulfilled this condition. Where the heaven character was, only Shi Tai could bear it. But now, he was unable to increase the power of the array. Yan Zhaoge pressed his lips tightly together. Something really happened to eldest apprentice uncle. Who was shocked when he heard this. Young master, you mean elder Shi? Yan Zhaoge closed his eyes, not speaking. His clasped palms separated once more, one hand clenching into a fist, the other extending his index finger, tapping towards his left pupil. Within his left eye, profound and complicated spirit patterns instantly surfaced, coming together to form a clear chi grand formation that seemed to have been shrunk countless times. Clenching his fist tightly, Yan Zhaoge punched forward, his fist intent surging. The clear chi grand formation within his eyes instantly transformed into light, completely entering the depths of his eyes. Yan Zhaoge closed his eyes once more. After standing silently for a moment, he opened them again, a dazzling white light erupting from his left eye. Within the white light, 3 golden specks of light shone brilliantly. Rise! Grabbing Hu, Yan Zhaoge strode forward. Within the sky, the spirit patterns of the clear chi grand formation lit up, resembling a great Tao that connected to the heavens, guiding Yan Zhaoge as he flew, his speed completely not inferior to peak martial grandmaster experts. Yan Zhaoge traversed the spirit patterns, resembling traversing space as he speedily streaked across the horizon, hurrying towards the lone peak where the heaven character was located. A mountain peak that towered into the clouds appeared within his field of vision. As his gaze swept over it, Yan Zhaoge discovered that in the distance, a vast desert had suddenly appeared on the great earth. In the center of the desert, there was a figure standing upright. As Yan Zhaoge brought Hu along, he saw Su Fei and Ying Longtu both kneeling before that figure that resembled a bronze statue. Looking at that figure, Yan Zhaoge closed his eyes, raising his head, unable to speak. That resolute and unyielding, strict and impartial first seat of Broad Creed Mountain's disciplinary hall. The Iron Lion King who had no desire for power and authority and was brave enough to take the lead. That taciturn eldest apprentice uncle who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. For Broad Creed Mountain, he had battled to the very last moment, spilling his last drop of blood, leaving everyone behind. Let us quickly return to reinforce the clan. Su Fei stood up, the eyes of that resolute man reddening as his trembling voice gradually grew steady. The clear chi grand formation has finally been wrested back, but we still cannot relax. We must completely defeat the incoming enemy. Saying thus, Su Fei's gaze dimmed a little, a pity that master cannot personally see this scene. Yan Zhaoge opened his eyes, he can. He swiveled his head to look at Su Fei. Where is the shadow shrinking pouch that eldest apprentice uncle obtained from senior apprentice brother Shi Songtao? Su Fei's gaze lit up, keeping Shirtai's belongings as he took out the shadow-shrinking pouch. After opening it, there were 3 transparent ice coffins within, 2 of which contained the bodies of Yunjun and Shijun. Yan Zhaoge received the empty ice coffin from Su Fei's hands, opening its lid. Su Fei lifted Shirtai's body that was on the verge of shattering, placing it within the ice coffin. Yan Zhaoge closed the coffin's lid, pursing his lips tightly as he looked at Shirtai's corpse within the transparent ice coffin. Looking at his young master, Ahu could only feel as though he was facing a volcano that might erupt at any moment. Yan Zhaoge raised his hand, shrugging as he placed the ice coffin on his shoulder. "Let's return to Broad Creed Mountain," Yan Zhaoge said quietly. He punched forward, a spirit pattern descending from the clear Qi Grand Formation, resembling a path. Carrying the ice coffin, Yan Zhaoge strode forward. The trio followed behind him, heading towards Broad Creed Mountain. At this moment, the great battle on Broad Creed Mountain had still yet to end, the 2 sides still locked in a fierce battle. The clear Qi Grand Formation had changed once more, causing everyone to be a little confused as they appeared hesitant. But not long after, radiance flickered in the distant sky as a path extended from the horizon all the way to Broad Creed Mountain. Gazing over, a person strode forward, carrying a transparent ice coffin on his shoulder as he walked towards Broad Creed Mountain. The person carrying the coffin was the most outstanding genius of Broad Creed Mountain's younger generation, Yan Zhaoge. Within the ice coffin lay a person peacefully. The Iron Lion King, Shirtai. The spirit patterns of the clear Qi Grand Formation flickered, a mournful wail seemingly resounding between the heavens and the earth. Now, a person on Broad Creed Mountain roared furiously, "Shirtai! Yan Zhaoge!" It was Elder Lu who had previously schemed to direct the power of the Devilish Domain Grand Formation in the Sand region to the South Heaven region, allowing the 9 underworlds to descend. With the heaven ceiling gorge broken, he and Elder Wang had escaped together. Seeing Yan Zhaoge and Shirtai at this moment, it was like seeing enemies, their eyes blazing with hatred. "Shirtai, you're dead. Good death." Looking at the ice coffin, Elder Lu laughed loudly. Carrying the ice coffin on his right shoulder, Yan Zhaoge raised his head towards the sky. "Eldest apprentice uncle, look at us." Saying thus, he chopped out with his left palm. A boom resounded as the clear Qi Grand Formation above his head circulated, its power merging with Yan Zhaoge's heavenly Broad Creed palm, transforming into a massive heaven-obscuring hand which descended. Elder Lu blocked with his palm, "Little thief." All his struggles were futile as the flying spirit talisman shattered, the sea of flames swept up by the Tushita palm instantly extinguished. Elder Lu was directly slammed into the ground by the heavenly Broad Creed palm of the clear Qi Grand Formation. Not even his corpse remained. Yan Zhaoge gazed at all the demons and monsters of Broad Creed Mountain, his gaze like fire. "All of you, become the paving of my eldest apprentice uncle's coffin." Chapter 302. Yan Zhaoge carried the ice coffin on his shoulder, advancing forward. Above his head, the clear Qi Grand Formation circulated mightily, descending a boundless, mighty force which bolstered Yan Zhaoge's body. Yan Zhaoge brought his fingers together, forming a saber with his palm as he chopped forward. As the radiance flickered, numerous spirit talismans gathered to form a massive talisman formation, resembling a miniature clear Qi Grand Formation. The grand array became a blade edge, sweeping forward, chopping large numbers of decimating abyss martial artists at the waist. A crack appeared in the foreign space above, and a terrifying torrent of destruction poured out from within. Raising his head to look towards the horizon, Yan Zhaoge raised his left hand, spreading his fingers, his palm facing the air above Broad Creed Mountain's peak. The next moment, Yan Zhaoge clenched his fingers into a fist. Accompanied by his action of clenching his fist, the clear Qi Grand Formation in the sky rumbled as it circulated, numerous spirit patterns transforming into a mist of light, traversing through the horizon. Haze of light interweaved, forming a net, continuously covering that foreign space. The radiance gradually faded, but the foreign space also stabilized once more. The space that had been violently distorting and shaking gradually calmed down, becoming transparent and formless once more, making it difficult for others to detect. Yan Zhaoge lowered his head once more, looking coldly at the decimating abyss martial practitioners of Broad Creed Mountain. He raised his left hand and smashed it down heavily. As the clear Qi Grand formation in the air circulated, rays of white light descended one after another, streaking across the sky like lightning, yet also like heavenly punishment. One decimating abyss martial practitioner after another, under the terrifying and peerless bombardment of the clear Qi Grand formation, died without a place to be buried. Yan Zhaoge did not cease in his footsteps as he carried the ice coffin along with Su Fei and Ning Longtu, treading on the great path paved with spirit patterns as they arrived before the clan. The group of people supported the spirit and went to the main peak, Heaven Rising Peak. As Yan Zhaoge's palm descended, another 2 insulation martial grandmasters were smashed into smithereens. Placing the ice coffin containing Shirtai's corpse on the ground of the mountain peak, Yan Zhaoge looked at Shirtai's face, sucking in a deep breath as he rose upwards. Bolstered by the power of the clear Qi Grand formation, Yan Zhaoge successfully broke through the obstruction of space, entering the foreign dimension. Within the foreign dimension, Yan Di, Yuan Tian and Xian Dongping had experienced a fierce battle, their expressions currently not looking too good, all 3 of them bearing injuries. Yan Zhaoge stared at that former senior of his clan, Xian. East. Level. Extending a hand forward, Yan Zhaoge's heavenly broad creed palm descended. A large number of flickering runes appeared on the ground around the foreign dimension, and then they also manifested into giant palms. The movements of this palm were completely synchronized with Yan Zhaoge's, the massive heaven-obscuring hand mightily pressing down towards Xian Dongping. At that moment, it was as if the world in this foreign dimension had truly been flipped upside down. As Yan Zhaoge's figure appeared within the foreign dimension, Xian Dongping instantly let out a long sigh towards the heavens. His gaze fell on Yan Zhaoge's left eye, as he saw that within Yan Zhaoge's left pupil was reflected white light, within which 3 spots of golden light flickered. Xian Dongping said, "It was this unique technique that allowed you to recapture the clear Qi Grand Array." He too raised his palm, similarly striking out with the heavenly broad creed palm. The 2 palms collided, and the void trembled. The boundary between heaven and earth blurred, as if it was constantly flipping. Even as Yan Zhaoge sent a palm towards Xian Dongping, he punched out with his other hand, his target being his father, Yan Di. Accompanied by this punch of Yan Zhaoge's, the clear Qi Grand Array borrowed the boundless majestic power of the heavens and the earth, surging into Yan Di's body in great amounts. Yan Di's gaze shot out with divine light, the aura of the clear Qi robe on his body also surging. Streams of clear Qi dispersed into the surroundings, gradually re-establishing their connection with the clear Qi Grand Array within the foreign dimension. Yan Di brandished his saber, an incomparably ferocious saber intent sweeping towards the devil Saint Yuan Tian. Father and son exerted force together. Staring at Xian Dongping, Yan Zhaoge let out an enraged roar, resembling the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. A terrifying volcano, at this moment, completely erupted. Amidst Yan Zhaoge's long roar, the momentum of the heavenly broad creed palm abruptly changed. Exchanging blows with him, Xian Dongping felt it the most directly. That was no longer a power that overturned the heavens and the earth, but rather that the heavens and the earth no longer existed. The world seemed to have returned to before the heavens and the earth had opened, everything still in a state of chaos. No yin, no yang, no before, no after, no beginning, no end, no movement, no stability. The next moment, the chaos mightily exploded. It was as if all things had been subsumed into chaos, then the chaos was extinguished, the universe opening once more. In an instant, a different change occurred in the entire clear Qi Grand Array, as if it was reenacting the opening of the heavens and splitting the earth. This incomparably majestic force domineeringly broke through Xian Dongping's heavenly broad creed palm. Xian Dongping was taken aback, the sword light in his other hand flickering as a limitless heavenly sword pierced through the heavens and the earth, chopping towards Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge exhaled and roared, extending his hands before clapping together towards the center. Within the foreign dimension, countless flickering spirit patterns transformed into two massive palms, synchronizing with Yan Zhaoge's movements as they also clapped towards the center, instantly trapping Xian Dongping's swordlight between the two palms. Yan Zhaoge looked coldly at Xian Dongping, that terrifying concept that resembled an explosion of chaos appearing once more. The violent, direct force shattered Xian Dongping's limitless heavenly sword once more. Xian Dongping's brows knit tightly as he retreated, no longer forcibly resisting Yan Zhaoge and the clear qi grand array, instead wanting to join up with the devil saint Yuan Tian. There, Yuan Tian was also currently being forced into retreat by Yan Di's saber. Yan Zhaoge sucked in a deep breath, pushing forward with his palms horizontally. Infinite, frenzied tides, with a momentum that surged to the heavens, pressured down towards Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. At the same time, Yan Di's saber swept through the air, splitting the heavens and the earth, shattering space itself as it also attacked towards Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. Palm intent and saber intent combined, frenzied tides that surged to the heavens directly drowned Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. The majestic sword light and the ethereal qi of impermanence were extinguished and shattered on a large scale. Yan Zhaoge's palm descended, the clear qi grand array circulating unceasingly, the shocking explosive force of the great explosion of chaos domineeringly shattering one of Xian Dongping's arms. On the other side, Yan Di's vicious saber shattered the spirit artifact whip in Yuan Tian's hands, a bloody wound also appearing between his chest and abdomen. If not for him retreating in time, his abdomen would have been directly split open. Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian hurriedly retreated. Yan Zhaoge's palm stance changed, his hands coming together, the entire foreign dimension pressuring towards the two. At this moment, the foreign dimension actually appeared to collapse, a boundless, majestic force also pressuring down on Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian even as it imprisoned them. Yan Di raised his saber, the black and yellow specks of light on the clear qi robe attaching themselves to the heavenly dragon saber in large amounts, streams of clear qi enveloping the saber's body. A ferocious saber descended, pressuring Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian to the point that they were unable to move, only able to join hands to deal with it. The Xian Dongping with a weaker cultivation base was already beginning to be injured by the sharp saber intent. Yan Zhaoge's clasped hands abruptly came together. The clear qi grand array suddenly circulated in reverse. Amidst the rapid changes, a shocking force was born, distorting as though it could forcibly rip a corner of the eight extremities world apart. Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian both let out tragic groans. The wound on Yuan Tian's chest abruptly expanded in all directions, virtually wanting to tear him apart into pieces. The body of a martial saint, how sturdy, how powerful. However, at this moment, it was on the verge of shattering. On the other side, Xian Dongping was in an even worse state, the limitless heavenly avatar completely shattered, a rain of blood erupting from his entire body. His entire person seemed about to be crushed into a pile of meat paste. Resolute looks flashed within the gazes of Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. Amidst low roars, a great amount of black devilish qi surged from within their bodies. Their pupils both began to turn dark yellow, a blood-red light simultaneously shooting out from within. Devil? Yan Zhaoge laughed savagely, his killing intent surging to the heavens. I'll let you be a good devil. Opening his shadow-shrinking pouch, a bow and 3 arrows fell into Yan Zhaoge's hands. Yan Zhaoge knocked 2 jet-black arrows on the bowstring at the same time before pulling the bow back, resembling hugging the full moon. The bowstring sunk deep into the flesh of his fingers, the 2 arrowheads seemed to be aimed at the empty space around Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. In this world, archery was also a type of martial Dao. The path of archery, like spear, sword, and saber, was unique. However, this Tao was even more difficult to cultivate. It was far more difficult to achieve anything than other martial Daos. At the same time, talent was even more important. Yan Zhaoge's archery was still a so-so, having only recently begun to train in it. However, on such an occasion, it would be difficult for him to miss. The clear Qi Grand formation circulated, forming a powerful restrictive force, trapping Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian where they were. Yan Di's saber intent descended even more viciously as the two of them could only defend against it in a pathetic fashion, no longer having the leisure to pay attention to anything else. While they had fallen to the dark side, with their earlier injuries being too severe, they were currently even more unable to stand against Yan Zhaoge and Yan Di. However, after falling to the dark side, Xian Dongping's expression instead grew much calmer. Looking at Yan Zhaoge and Yan Di, he said mildly, "This time, it was this old man's own mistake. On one hand, I did not get rid of you, Yan Zhaoge, on the other, I underestimated your father. Dying here today, next time, will decide victory and defeat." Xian Dongping looked at Yan Zhaoge. "Young man, you seem to be very familiar with the 9 underworld's evil devils." This old man heard about the process of you interrogating junior apprentice brother Lu. "You said that with his cultivation base, even if he fell to the dark side, he would still be unable to achieve the body of a true devil reborn. Since you understand it so well, you should also know that with this old man's cultivation base, while I have yet to enter the martial saint realm, I still have a chance." Xian Dongping swiveled his head to glance at Yuan Tian, "And the devil saint will definitely be able to achieve the body of a true devil reborn." Yan Zhaoge pointed his arrows at the two of them, his gaze cold. Xian Dongping sighed emotionally. Even martial saints have a limit to their lifespan. When the time comes, no one can escape it. Eternal life, which countless people can only dream of but are unable to attain, to this old man, I actually did not feel that it was all that pressing in the past. This old man's lifelong wish is also not like that of senior apprentice brother Wang and junior apprentice brother Lu. Living an ignoble, mediocre life is also meaningless. Xian Dongping said, "However, today, I have experienced some of its benefits. This old man still has regrets, not wanting to die so early." The area of the hole grew larger and larger, but the bodies of the two gradually disappeared, as though they had been devoured from within by the hole in their bodies. At the end, their bodies were completely extinguished, turning into nothingness. Even the black qi that had enveloped them seemed to have been purified. "You." Xian Dongping looked at Yan Zhaoge in disbelief. Meeting his gaze, Yan Zhaoge said indifferently, "You want eternal life? I will send you to eternal rest." Chapter 304. The decimating abyss was created by Xian Dongping in recent years. The demons of the netherworld had existed since ancient times. They had existed before the Great Calamity. In the era before the advent of the Great Calamity, humans had come into contact with the 9 underworld's evil devils. Some had fallen to the dark side, while others had been exterminated. Some of the techniques that had been born from this had mostly been lost in the current 8 extremities world after the Great Calamity, few people knowing about them. The Devil's Shattering Arrow was one of them. Shatter Devil, as the name implied, was the life force of Shatter Devils. Demons could not be killed and could not be destroyed. After being destroyed, they would be reborn in the depths of the 9 underworlds. However, the demon's shattering arrow forcefully cut off this process and sent the demon into eternal slumber. 9 levels of the martial Grandmaster realm, late Essence Talisman stage experts who fell to the dark side, were still not true 9 underworld evil devils. It might be more appropriate to call it a human devil. On the other hand, a transcendent great Grandmaster could be reborn after death. There was a certain probability that they would turn into a real demon of the netherworld and enjoy the ability to be reborn after death. If a martial saint fell to the dark side, he would definitely be reborn in the 9 underworlds. Yan Zhaoge had prepared the devil-shattering arrow precisely for this moment. Xian Dongping looked at the constantly expanding hole in his chest, watching as this hole expanded outwards, swirling around his body, swallowing him from the inside out. He raised his head to look at Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge's expression was cold, his gaze like fire. Do you think that fallen devils are omnipotent? Xian Dongping let out a long sigh towards the heavens, not making any sound at all. One could only barely make out the contents of his words from the shape of his mouth. Indeed, not getting rid of you first was an even greater mistake than underestimating Yan Di. At the side, Yuan Tian's resentful expression gradually disappeared, and his face was filled with disappointment. He was not someone from the decimating abyss, and Xian Dongping had no way of controlling and ordering him around. But he was attracted by the 9 underworlds and had a request in his heart, so he hit it off well with Xian Dongping. He had originally thought that with Yuan Zhengfeng in secluded cultivation in his attempt to break through to the martial saint realm, with Xian Dongping acting as a spy to break the clear qi grand formation, his only opponent would be the sacred artifact, the clear qi robe. In the outside world, Jade Sea City and Turbid Wave Pavilion had to deal with the flame devils of the East Sea. The Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall would also most likely make use of this chance to make a move against Broad Creed Mountain, at the same time restricting Broad Creed Mountain's other ally, Infinite Boundless Mountain. He had the right time, the right place, and the right people. Even if something unexpected happened, he would not be able to succeed. As a martial saint, he would at least be able to retreat unscathed. If he succeeded, he would get what he wanted. If he failed, he wouldn't lose anything in the worst-case scenario. These were Yuan Tian's true thoughts. On one hand, it was out of consideration for the situation. On the other hand, it was also because of his self-confidence as a Saint Realm expert. Even when Yan Zhaoge and Yan Di had unexpectedly been directly shifted from the ancestral manor of the Yan family in Yunjin County to Broad Creed Mountain, trapped within the clear qi grand formation, Yuan Tian had still thought this way. But later, he found that he was wrong. Broad Creed Mountain was his burial ground. The last martial saint to die here was the last mountain master of Black Nightmare Mountain. Now, it was Yuan Tian's turn. Yuan Tian did not feel any intense regret. He had braved many storms and waves in his life, and he had a firm will. Once he made a decision, he would not easily waver. However, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. He had underestimated the heroes of the world. The hole in Yuan Tian's chest grew larger and larger, devouring him from the inside out. Xian Dongping also suffered the same fate as him. The two, along with the black qi that enveloped them, were purified between the heavens and the earth, completely dissipating like the other fallen practitioners. Wielding high speed, Yan Zhaoge looked coldly at this scene, remaining silent for a long time. Xian Dongping, transcending mortality martial grandmaster, stably one of the top 3 martial grandmaster experts of the 8 extremities world. Yuan Tian, known as the Devil Saint, one of the 6 great martial saints of the 8 extremities world. Today, all of them had perished at Broad Creed Mountain. Their deaths had been single-handedly caused by Yan Zhaoge. Garbed in the clear qi robe, wielding the heavenly dragon saber, Yan Di came to Yan Zhaoge's side, asking in a heavy tone, "Where's eldest apprentice brother?" Yan Zhaoge narrated to Yan Di what had happened, as well as what he had heard from Su Fei and Ing Longtu. After hearing it, Yan Di did not speak. Eldest apprentice uncle's corpse is currently placed in an ice coffin, on the heaven-rising peak, Yan Zhaoge said softly. Yan Di nodded, exiting the foreign dimension along with Yan Zhaoge, landing on the top of Broad Creed Mountain's main peak, the heaven-rising peak. At this moment, the great battle on Broad Creed Mountain had already gradually calmed, the decimating abyss martial practitioners virtually all having been slain. It was just that after a great battle, the formerly elegant Green Mountain now had a feeling of devastation as far as the eye could see. Especially in the direction of the back mountain's Water Ridge Peak, where the devilish domain grand formation was weakening unceasingly, but had still not completely vanished. Yan Zhaoge turned and said to Yan Di, "I'll go assist second apprentice uncle in completely suppressing the devilish domain grand formation." Standing in front of the ice coffin containing Shi Tai's corpse, Yan Di nodded slightly, not speaking. Yan Zhaoge descended the heaven-rising peak, hurrying over to Water Ridge Peak. On the heaven-rising peak, Ahu, Su Fei, and Han Long no longer had to guard the coffin as they followed Yan Zhaoge down the mountain, exterminating the remaining enemies. "Young master, after you entered the foreign dimension, I tried to contact the other Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners on the mountain," Ahu said as he left. Yan Zhaoge let out a long breath. "How is the situation on the mountain now?" Ahu answered, "Elder, he is guarding the old chief's secluded cultivation grounds. It is safe and sound there, having not been disturbed." Elder Zhang was heavily injured by Xian Dongping earlier, his injuries rather severe. However, his life is not in danger. The first seat of the heaven-sealing gorge, Elder Gong, was also heavily injured, though his condition is a little better than Elder Zhang's. Yan Zhaoge nodded. Of the peak experts who had previously been stationed at Broad Creed Mountain, other than the old chief Yuan Jingfeng and his father Yan Di who had just stepped into the transcending mortality stage, there had been a total of 3 people. They were Xian Dongping and the 2 grand elders Zhang Kuan and He Ning. Xian Dongping had betrayed and been slain, Elder Zhang had been heavily injured, and Elder He had been guarding Yuan Jingfeng, unable to leave. The late Essence Talisman experts of the 9th level of the Martial Grandmaster realm consisted of his eldest apprentice uncle Shi Tai, second apprentice uncle Fang Zhuan, the first seed of the Heaven-Sealing Gorge Elder Gong, as well as the former Elder Wang. Now, Elder Wang had betrayed and been personally slain by his eldest apprentice uncle Shi Tai sacrificing himself for justice. Elder Gong had been heavily injured, and it would probably not be easy for Fang Zhuan to suppress the devilish domain grand formation. Beneath the late Essence Talisman stage, there were also many other Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners who had perished. This great tribulation had not been easy for Broad Creed Mountain. Meanwhile, the decimating abyss on the other side had virtually been completely wiped out. The Abyss Lord, the Transcending Mortality Martial Grandmaster Xian Dongping, the Devil Saint Yuan Tian, as well as Sima Chui, Elder Wang and the 2 longtime elders of Black Nightmare Mountain, at least 4 late Essence Talisman Martial Grandmaster experts had all been slain. The other decimating Abyss martial practitioners who had invaded Broad Creed Mountain had all perished. However, Yan Zhaoge and Broad Creed Mountain still could not completely relax. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head to look towards the south, where the fire domain was located. He swiveled his head to look towards the east, where the earth domain was located. It was from there that the people of the Heavenly Thunder Hall had shot the anti-sun, interfering with the clear chi grand formation. Yan Zhaoge's gaze was cold as he weighed the 2 shadow shrinking pouches in his hands. While Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian's corpses would not be left behind after having fallen to the dark side, their belongings would still have been preserved. "Old man Xian, let me see just what it is that you are relying on to attract a martial saint to take such a risk." Chapter 305. Yan Zhaoge opened the shadow shrinking pouches of Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian respectively. As the top experts in the world, the private properties of these 2 big shots were naturally quite rich. However, Yan Zhaoge's eyes only swept past most of them. It was not that there were no good things, rare things, precious things, but they could all be slowly sorted out later on. What Yan Zhaoge was currently inspecting were the things that could possibly be traded between Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. It was most likely a treasure related to the 9 hells and hell. Yuan Tian traveled alone. As a martial saint, he had a rich family fortune. He traveled all over the world, ventured into the depths of the earth, and collected many precious treasures and resources. However, comparatively speaking, no matter how deep his foundation was, it would still be unable to compare to sacred ground-level powers like Broad Creed Mountain and the Sacred Sun Clan. But even so, Yuan Tian's net worth was richer than Xian Dongping's. While Xian Dongping was one of Broad Creed Mountain's few longtime elders, there was also a limit to how much of Broad Creed Mountain's resources he could use. While Broad Creed Mountain had many resources, they were not Xian Dongping's private property. Broad Creed Mountain's wealth and Xian Dongping's personal wealth were two different things. Of course, the prerequisite for this comparison was that it only counted the resources that Xian Dongping could draw from within Broad Creed Mountain. And Xian Dongping had another identity, the master of the decimating abyss. In the current Eight Extremities world, he was very likely the person closest to the 9 underworlds. What exactly did Xian Dongping reap from the 9 underworlds and hell? This was very hard to say. If he had a bargaining chip to attract the devil Saint Yuan Tian, Yan Zhaoge believed that it originated from here. Heavenly Lake Jade, it shouldn't be, the tranquil reversal divine medicine. I don't think so, the ghost body congealed paste shouldn't be either. Carefully inspecting, Yan Zhaoge's gaze came to rest on something within Xian Dongping's shadow shrinking pouch after a moment, 9 underworld's dark soil. After pondering for a moment, Yan Zhaoge checked Yuan Tian's shadow shrinking pouch once more, very quickly discovering his target this time. Within his palm were a few black spheres the size of pearls. After appraising them for a moment, Yan Zhaoge took out one of them and infused his aura qi within. Yan Zhaoge closed his eyes, calming his mind as numerous streams of qi vaguely circulated before him, formless and formless. Carefully savoring it, it actually seemed to contain some profound profundities of the impermanence of all the elements. However, this logic seemed to have been twisted, revealing a sense of lawlessness. Although it was distorted, it had its own unique and profound concept. Yan Zhaoge opened his eyes, staring at the small black ball within his palm. Or, it would be more appropriate to call them tree seeds. It is indeed the seed of the impermanent devil tree. Yan Zhaoge looked at that 9 underworld's dark soil once more. It was said to be soil, but it was more like a cloud and mist, and the aura of the 9 underworlds was faintly emitted from it. It was breathtaking. Once the 9 underworld soil left the 9 underworlds, it would undergo a change. There would no longer be 100% confidence in nurturing the Anika demon seed and growing it into an Anika demon tree. Before the Great Calamity, the Impermanent Devil sect had possessed a unique treasure known as the Impermanent Devil Pool, which could allow the dark soil of the 9 underworlds to not undergo any changes after leaving the 9 underworlds, maintaining its original effects for a long period of time. That was how they were able to nurture the Impermanent Devil Tree without relying on the 9 underworlds. However, following the Great Calamity, the impermanent demonic pool had long since turned into nothingness, and the impermanent demonic tree had also gone extinct in the human world. Yan Zhaoge looked at the impermanent devil seed, then at that 9 underworld's dark soil which had already somewhat mutated, concentrating on his thoughts. While the earth domain has mutated, becoming a death ground, hell, it is at the end of the day not the true 9 underworlds. Yan Zhaoge stroked his lower chin. The 9 underworlds have not truly descended into the 8 extremities world. Where did this Xian Dongping get the 9 underworlds dark soil from? As he walked towards Water Ridge Peak, the pondering Yan Zhaoge suddenly halted. Following behind him, who looked stunned at his young master. Yan Zhaoge's gaze flickered as he raised his head to look at the sky, where the clear Qi Grand Formation had already gradually concealed itself within space once more. There was only the Water Ridge Peak of the back mountain where, under Yan Zhaoge's control, the power of the formation descended unceasingly, helping Feng Zhuan to suppress the Devilish Domain Grand Formation. The Black Devilish Domain Grand Formation gradually withered. The black devilish qi that surged to the heavens earlier had enveloped the entire Water Ridge Peak, even expanding towards the surrounding areas. Now, it had already been retracted to the base of the Water Ridge Peak. Water Ridge Peak saw the light of day once more, the dense devilish qi only making its final struggle in the region of the heaven-sealing gorge. Yan Zhaoge raised his head to look at the empty sky, radiance flickering within his left eye. Guided by his power, numerous majestic, dazzling spirit patterns appeared within the sky once more. Yan Zhaoge's gaze shifted between the clear Qi Grand Formation above his head and the domain of devilish Qi beneath the water-ridge peak before him, finally falling on the devilish mark on the back of his left hand. After a while, Yan Zhaoge retracted his thoughts, striding forward once more, continuing towards Water Ridge Peak. Having arrived at the heaven-sealing gorge, entering the domain of devilish Qi, arriving at its central region, he saw a tall golden pagoda, currently already not even 5 meters tall. At the top of the pagoda, Feng Zhuan sat in the meditative position, his face slightly pale, but his expression was calm and peaceful, no different from usual. Below the tall golden pagoda, Feng Yunsheng held her black saber as she stood there. Seeing Yan Zhaoge appear, an expression of relief appeared on her face. Yan Zhaoge nodded towards her, and she nodded in return. "Zhaoge, since you have appeared here, that means that the situation outside has already been settled?" A hint of a smile appeared on Feng Zhuan's thin face. Yan Zhaoge bowed towards him. "Yes, second apprentice uncle. Xian Dongping and the devil Saint Yuan Tian have already been slain. The decimating abyss martial practitioners who invaded our clan, including a few late essence talisman martial grandmasters, have all been exterminated. Now, we are in the midst of the final cleanup." Saying thus, Yan Zhaoge paused for a moment before continuing, "Second apprentice uncle, eldest apprentice uncle, he has perished." Hearing his words, the always calm and composed Feng Zhuan abruptly stared wide-eyed. Yan Zhaoge swore that this was the first time ever since he had known Feng Zhuan that he had seen this first seat of Broad Creed Mountain's assignment hall lose his composure like this. Feng Zhuan lowered his head. When he raised it again, his face was even gloomier, but his expression had already returned to normal. "Contact our fellow disciples guarding outside, in case the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall make use of this chance to invade." Yan Zhaoge nodded. "I think so too. I just happen to have an idea that I would like to discuss with second apprentice uncle, related to this devilish domain grand formation before us." "Oh?" Feng Zhuan asked curiously. "Could it be that you want to preserve this formation?" By the side, Ahu and Feng Yunsheng also looked curiously at Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge said solemnly, "While it is preserving it, it is not preserving this devilish domain grand formation. Instead, it is being modified, thus serving some other purpose. I still haven't had the time to tell my father and the other elders about it. Having hurried over here, I would like to ask second apprentice uncle to bear with it for a period of time. If the Sacred Sun Clan and the others don't come, we will put an end to it. If they really invade, our clan will also have to make some preparations. After all, it is still uncertain when Grand Master will be able to leave seclusion." Feng Zhuan met Yan Zhaoge's gaze silently, saying after a while, "All right, I will temporarily maintain this place as it is. You invite junior apprentice brother Yan and the others over to peruse your plan together." Yan Zhaoge said, "That is precisely my intention. I will have to trouble second apprentice uncle." Chapter 306. Because there are no more manuscripts, I am sending them out as I write now, updating as much as I write. But don't worry, everyone. It will be recorded in the accounts, definitely not owing anything. Please don't stop your monthly votes. Thank you all. Fire Domain, Sacred Sun Clan, World Illuminating Peak. Currently, it was night, silent and silent. However, at the top of the World Illuminating Peak, led by the current chief of the Sacred Sun Clan Huang Su, a group of Sacred Sun Clan experts stood silently. The World Illuminating young master Huang Jia stood silently behind Huang Su, resembling a shadow. While he was known as the World Illuminating Peak, such a tranquil, deep night seemed to suit Huang Jia even more. He resembled the sun of the night, perfectly merging into the night. Everyone stood silently, already having been there for who knew how long. However, no impatience or anxiety could be seen on their faces. Some of them even had an excited glow in their gazes, as if they were eagerly anticipating something. Suddenly, the pitch-black night sky brightened, resembling the sun rising from the east. The dawn sun illuminated the great earth, bringing light to the world once more. However, at this moment, it was actually not yet dawn. However, the heavens and the earth suddenly turned bright, resembling daytime. It was just that this sunlight did not rise from the horizon, but from the world-illuminating peak. Those waiting at the top of the mountain, with the current chief at their head, Huang Su, all bowed. Huang Su was the first to say, "Welcome, Father, out of seclusion." Behind him, Huang Jie continued, "Welcome, Grandfather, out of seclusion." The others bowed deeply as well, "Welcome, Elder Huang, out of seclusion." The sun rises from the east. At the top of the world-illuminating peak, resembling the rising sun, amidst the radiance that illuminated the heavens and the earth, a figure slowly strode out from within. A total of 9 suns gathered into a ring, hovering behind this figure. There was no feeling of extreme heat all over the world-illuminating peak, as the heat that resembled a real sun was completely retracted, only infinite light remaining. The light illuminated every corner of the world-illuminating peak, not letting go of a single bit as it expanded outwards. Over 10,000 li of land, the dark night dissipated completely, the great earth entering daylight ahead of time. Not much of a terrifying aura was emitted, but everyone present felt as if there was a pair of eyes looking into the depths of their hearts. Before him, even in the face of death, they dared not resist, only able to silently bear it, as if the true God of the great sun that hung high up in the sky descended his judgment. The sound of footsteps resounded, mild and yet real. Following the sound of footsteps, a white-robed old man appeared before Huang Su, Huang Jie, and the others. This old man had a medium build, and his appearance was similar to Huang Su and Huang Jie. On his forehead, there was a golden rune that resembled a blazing sun. This old man was precisely the Sacred Sun clan's previous chief, one of the current era's 6 great martial saints, the East-coming martial saint, the sun comes east, Huang Guanglie. In the current 8 extremities world, under normal circumstances, Huang Guanglie had always been tacitly acknowledged as the current #1 expert. Other than the Sacred Sun clan's Sacred Sun Saint whose whereabouts were unknown, the Purple Sun martial Saint Zhang Chao, who was also Huang Guanglie's master and of the same generation as the exalted Heaven Shaker and the Heaven Diviner that year. Apart from the mysterious painting Saint Old Man Mo, who had shown his prowess in front of the world before. It was publicly acknowledged in the current 8 extremities world that Huang Guanglie was superior to the devil Saint Yuan Tian, the lord of the heavenly thunder hall Shenli and the other 4 martial saints. And that was before Huang Guanglie went into seclusion. Now that he had come out of seclusion, who knew what realm he had reached? Huang Guanglie looked at Huang Su and said, "Tell me what happened after I went into seclusion." Huang Su nodded, narrating one matter after another in an orderly manner. His narration had the feeling of covering everything in great detail. Other than the important matters, some trivial matters were also mentioned. Whether it was Huang Guanglie who was listening to Huang Su's narration or Huang Jie and the others in the surroundings, none of them showed any signs of impatience as they just stood there quietly. After Huang Su had finally finished narrating Broad Creed Mountain's current situation, he finally fell silent. Huang Guanglie looked towards the north, in the direction of the heaven domain. Yuan Zhengfeng finally dares to enter seclusion and attempt to take that step. Sadly, he is too slow. Huang Guanglie strode forward, heading north. Broad Creed Mountain has made use of these few years of this old man's seclusion to stir up quite a bit of activity. Since that is so, after this old man leaves seclusion, I will first go to their place to exercise my muscles a little. At the same time, radiance surged before Huang Su, a long golden ruler appearing. Then, light erupted, as if a world of white light had been created where the world-illuminating peak had been. The long golden ruler flew up, landing in Huang Guanglie's hands. Huang Guanglie strode out, instantly leaving far away. Immeasurable light headed north, illuminating the heavens and the earth. Accompanied by Huang Guanglie's departure, night gradually returned to the world-illuminating peak. Huang Su and Huang Jie did not move, the 2 remaining on guard over the world-illuminating peak. The other Sacred Sun clan martial practitioners were all extremely excited, did you feel it? The horizon over there suddenly turned white, as though a sun was about to rise. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that the martial practitioners of Broad Creed Mountain who had been stationed outside had all retreated back to the clan beforehand, not having been casually swept through by Huang Guanglie. With the eruption of the chaos of the decimating abyss, with the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall sending their troops over, Broad Creed Mountain could already deduce that the day Huang Guanglie emerged from seclusion was definitely approaching. The decimating abyss had made use of the Sacred Sun clan to exert pressure on Broad Creed Mountain, but wasn't the Sacred Sun clan similarly making use of the decimating abyss as a blade? After stabilizing their footing, Broad Creed Mountain began notifying the experts who had been deployed outside to return. Yan Zhaoge looked at that white light that enveloped the heavens and the earth. At this time, Hu climbed up the thunder-shaking peak and shouted, "Young master, is that Huang Guanglie? He really came out of seclusion in these few days." Yan Zhaoge nodded. It was precisely during this time that Xian Dongping made his move. If he succeeded, the 9 underworlds descended. If he failed, the Sacred Sun clan came to deal with us. Hu's face was illuminated by the distant radiance. "Young master, do you think he brought the great sun heaven measuring ruler?" "He came too quickly, our clan couldn't receive the news in time." Yan Zhaoge said, "However, he most likely brought it with him. If the Sacred Sun clan has already gotten rid of the decimating abyss spy planted there, they would have nothing to worry about now. With the East Sea Flame Devils causing trouble, Jade Sea City and Turbid Wave Pavilion would be dealing with it. Infinite Boundless Mountain had the Heavenly Thunder Hall watching over them. While the Heavenly Thunder Hall might also have their own plans, they would more or less still restrict Infinite Boundless Mountain. The Painting Saint, Old Man Mo, did not participate in the internal conflicts of the human race. The Sacred Sun clan indeed had nothing to worry about. While Huang Guanglie was currently at the peak of his success, he was also a veteran of the martial world for many years, also having to deal with Broad Creed Mountain that had always been a thorn in his side. This time, he would definitely seek to suppress them from above, killing them in a single blow, completely removing Broad Creed Mountain from the sacred ground. The Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler would most likely be brought along with him. In the hands of Huang Guanglie, this sacred artifact was completely different from in the hands of his son, the late Essence Talisman Martial Grandmaster Huang Su, its power incomparable. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head and asked Hu, "The matter we talked about just now, has it all been arranged?" Hu hurriedly answered, "Yes, young master." Over at the Heaven Sealing Gorge, Elder Fang is making preparations, guaranteeing that not a single bit of its aura will leak out. Those 9 underworlds dark soil, I have also buried them in those 9 places as per your instructions. Yan Zhaoge nodded, "That's good then." Next, not saying anything more, Yan Zhaoge lowered his head to look at the numerous marks that were currently being drawn beneath his feet, gradually forming a simple, yet seemingly containing a unique profundity within. Atop the heaven-rising peak, garbed in the clear chi robe, Yan Di sat in the meditative position, the heavenly dragon saber placed horizontally across his knees. Beside him, Elder Zhang and Elder Gong looked as per normal, but their complexions were slightly dispirited, having yet to recover from their heavy injuries. Pressured by that infinite light, the clear chi grand formation began shrinking unceasingly, becoming more and more condensed, becoming smaller and smaller, gradually shrinking to less than an acre in size, transforming into a massive spirit pattern that hovered above the heaven-rising peak, putting up its final resistance. Within that infinite light, a white-clothed old man strode out neither quickly nor slowly. It was precisely Huang Guanglie. His hands behind his back, he gazed down at the heaven-rising peak. His gaze was completely not on Elder Zhang and Elder Gong, instead falling on Yan Di, appraising him with a single glance before saying mildly, "It really is a pity that you have entered Broad Creed Mountain." Yan Di answered calmly, "It is my honor." A long time ago, this old man once asked you whether you were willing to join my sacred Sun clan, but you refused. Huang Guanglie said, this old man has never given people second chances, but for you, this old man is willing to make an exception. This is the second time I'm asking you, are you willing to join my sacred Sun clan? Yan Di smiled, not answering, raising the heavenly dragon saber before his chest with his right hand, lightly flicking the blade of the saber with a finger of his left hand. Seeing this, Huang Guanglie said indifferently, the second time I'm asking you is also the last time. Since you are so stubborn, there is no need to say anything more. Saying thus, Huang Guanglie's gaze swept across broad Creed Mountain, asking, I heard that his son is also rather extraordinary. Behind him, the world-illuminating Lord appeared, answering slowly, he cannot be judged by common sense, cannot be treated lightly. A cold snort resounded, Pan Butai's figure also appearing behind Huang Guanglie. Huang Guanglie said, Su Er's evaluation of him is also rather high, this has really piqued this old man's curiosity. Come out, let this old man take a look. His voice rolled down, resembling the waves of the sea that shook the entire broad Creed Mountain. Some broad Creed Mountain disciples with lower cultivation bases could only feel as though their souls were about to be shaken out of their bodies. The expressions of Elder Zhang and Elder Gong both changed. Huang Guanglie's stance seemed to be saying that if they didn't do as he said, he would shake everyone of broad Creed Mountain to death. Huang Guanglie's expression was mild, you've killed many of my sacred Sun clan's people, spoiled many of my sacred Sun clan's matters, disrespecting my sacred Sun clan time and time again. Come out, let this old man see what kind of young hero you are. Chapter 308. Huang Guanglie's aura surged to the heavens, enveloping the entire broad Creed Mountain. On Thunder's shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge was no exception. He raised his head and looked calmly at Huang Guanglie, who was in the clouds. He could see his opponent's appearance clearly, but in his perception, there was only a vast expanse of whiteness. That feeling was even more worrying than looking directly at the sun. In that instant, Yan Zhaoge felt as though he no longer existed in this world, as though he had been purified by that infinite radiance. Within the sky, Huang Guanglie sensed something, feeling Yan Zhaoge's gaze on him. His gaze also immediately turned towards the Thunder's shocking peak, looking at Yan Zhaoge at its peak. Accompanied by Huang Guanglie's gaze, that power that had originally enveloped broad Creed Mountain instantly converged towards Yan Zhaoge. The endless power of sunlight condensed into a single point, piercing through the void, burning the void, and piercing through the void. Atop heaven-rising peak, Yan Di stood up, brandishing the heavenly dragon saber within his hand as the clear chi robe's wide sleeves resembled the heavens as they drifted outwards. The saber intent that could split the heavens and the earth rose up, splitting the sunlight. Behind Yan Di, the faces of Elder Zhang and Elder Gong were not relaxed. Huang Guanglie had yet to make his move. On the Thunder's shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge's expression was calm as he looked at Huang Guanglie, cupping his hands, before the east-coming martial saint, broad Creed Mountain disciple Yan Zhaoge greets you. Appraising Yan Zhaoge with a glance, Huang Guanglie said casually after a while, purely in terms of martial cultivation and strength, whether or not you can compare to your father Yan Di in the future, at the same cultivation level, at the same age, you have caused an even greater disturbance than Yan Di. A pity, this old man has already decided to exterminate Broad Creed Mountain today and kill Yan Di. As for you, I won't stay either. Huang Guanglie stretched out one of his hands, and a vast expanse of whiteness shone from his palm. The sacred Sun clan's direct lineage, the head of the 7 great Sun arts. The light shines, and the world becomes white. The ultimate skill that had once been displayed in the hands of Pan Butai, in Huang Guanglie's hands, was a completely different sight. In a trance, there was no longer white light flashing in front of everyone's eyes. Instead, it was pitch black. The light was so bright that everyone felt like they were going blind. Under the power of Huang Guanglia's palm, it was as if he was the only truth in the world, the only ruler, the only light, and everything else was reduced to darkness and silence. The sun rose in the east, and at daybreak, the real sun had already risen above the horizon. However, at this moment, it was as though night had descended upon Broad Creed Mountain once more. Above the heaven-rising peak, the radiance of the clear Qi Grand Formation that had always guarded Broad Creed Mountain dimmed at this moment, resembling the light of a candle about to be extinguished. At the top of the mountain, specks of light lit up on the clear Qi robe that Yan Di was wearing, some black, some yellow, vast and vigorous. But under Huang Guanglia's palm force, these lights lit up and extinguished bit by bit. The terrifying light swept through the world, seemingly wanting to wipe Broad Creed Mountain off the face of the earth. Yan Di's gaze was unwavering as he faced the powerful Huang Guanglia fearlessly. He took a deep breath and raised the heavenly dragon saber, which was glowing with a dim purple light. As Yan Di raised his saber, the purple radiance on its blade flickered once more. The clear Qi robe fluttered unceasingly, numerous streams of clear Qi emanating outwards as the 8 peaks of Broad Creed Mountain shook together. Without the envelopment of the devilish domain Grand Formation, Water Ridge Peak resonated with the other 8 peaks as it was enveloped by the numerous streams of clear Qi of the clear Qi robe. Above the heaven-rising peak, the massive rune formed of the clear Qi Grand Formation began shrinking a step further. The heavenly dragon saber in Yan Di's hand shot a streak of purple light into the horizon, connecting with the center of the rune formed of the clear Qi Grand Formation. The roar of a dragon resounded as the purple light expanded unceasingly, finally resembling a heavenly pillar. The streams of clear Qi emitted by the clear Qi robe enveloped the purple pillar of light, combining with the clear Qi Grand Formation. Yan Di exhaled and roared, chopping down with his saber. Like the heavenly pillar collapsing, the heavens overturning, the infinite sky transforming together into a purple saber. On the blade of the saber that could not be seen in the distance, a pattern was inlaid, precisely condensed of the clear Qi Grand Formation. As the streams of clear Qi surged, black or yellow radiance also circulated on the blade of the saber. The majestic power of the clear Qi Grand Formation and the clear Qi robe was currently all bolstered on Yan Di's body without reservation, aiding him in executing this supreme saber. As the purple light flickered, it was finally no longer dominated by the white light. The darkness retreated, light returning to Broad Creed Mountain once more. The majestic, tyrannical purple saber light mightily broke through that infinite white light. Seeing this scene, the experts of the Sacred Sun clan all had looks of admiration on their faces. However, they were not worried. Amongst martial grandmasters, you can indeed be said to be invincible, Huang Guanglia nodded, however, that is only amongst martial grandmasters. The current you is still inexperienced. Saying thus, Huang Guanglia extended his palm forward, retracting his index finger and thumb, only 3 fingers remaining as he pointed towards Broad Creed Mountain and Yan Di from afar. The tips of his middle finger, ring finger, and little finger all lit up with a golden radiance. While it was only a faint golden light, it seemed to contain infinite destructive power. It was even more powerful than light illumination, great white under the heavens. Beneath the 3 specks of golden light, the toughest of the sun, indestructible. Yan Di's saber light instantly shook. Pan Butai laughed coldly, you have the immeasurable heavenly saber, while my Sacred Sun clan has the extreme yang fist, 3 suns opening heaven. Huang Guanglia executed the Sacred Sun clan's supreme martial art, the killing move of the extreme yang fist, 3 suns opening heaven. Incomparably ferocious power mightily struck towards Broad Creed Mountain and Yan Di. 3 specks of golden light pierced through the heavens and the earth. Yan Di let out a long breath, the massive heaven-splitting saber chopping out horizontally, intercepting the 3 specks of golden light. Amidst the rumbling, the purple saber light shook unceasingly. In the process of clashing with the purple saber light, the 3 specks of golden light merged, gradually converging into a single point, their power rising yet another level. Yendi's expression was calm as he held his saber horizontally before his chest, finally adopting a defensive stance. The purple saber light resembled a heavenly screen, splitting the heavens and the earth into two worlds. On one side was broad Creed Mountain, on the other was that terrifying golden light. The purple light and the golden light were locked in a stalemate. Bolstered by the clear Qi robe and the clear Qi grand formation, Yendi resembled a pillar that supported the heavens, standing erect between the heavens and the earth, not letting Huang Guanglie advance lightly. In the current eight extremities world, Huang Guanglie could virtually already be called the #1 expert. As a martial grandmaster, with the help of the clear Qi robe and the clear Qi grand formation, Yendi successfully blocked him. He also guarded Broad Creed Mountain, not letting the aftershocks of the clash of the two powers affect the others of Broad Creed Mountain. If he did not care about the safety of his fellow disciples, Yendi would have the power to counterattack, not needing to adopt a defensive stance. The attacking Yendi was the strongest Yendi. However, no one forgot that the current Huang Guanglie was unarmed. The Sacred Sun clan's sacred artifact, the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler, had yet to make an appearance. On the thunder-shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge and Ah Hu watched this scene, the latter swallowing his saliva. After Huang Guanglie successfully advanced a step further, he is truly terrifying. No wonder the old chief wanted to enter secluded cultivation to attempt a breakthrough into the martial saint realm no matter what. Within the sky, Huang Guanglie swiveled his head to say to the world-illuminating Lord, Pan Butai, and the others, Yendi is a rare talent. In the final battle of his life, this old man will give him a chance to display it. As for Broad Creed Mountain, I'll leave it to you. The world-illuminating Lord and the others nodded in unison. Then, a great sun rose within the sky, rapidly descending towards Broad Creed Mountain. Chapter 309. Pan Butai, the world-illuminating Lord and the others descended towards Broad Creed Mountain together. Elder Zhang, Elder Gong, and the others looked at each other solemnly. Pan Butai's gaze directly fell on Yan Zhaoge on the thunder-shocking peak. Child of the Yan family, you killed this old man's grandson, today shall be the day you pay with your life. The world-illuminating Lord appraised the 8 peaks of Broad Creed Mountain. Earlier, in the great battle between Broad Creed Mountain and the decimating abyss, the traces of destruction caused by it had already been mostly removed. However, that fire-leaving peak that had its peak shaved off and sharpened once more still displayed to the world what kind of great tribulation Broad Creed Mountain had previously encountered. And now, an even greater tribulation had descended, not giving those of Broad Creed Mountain any chance to catch their breath. The world-illuminating Lord said mildly, as one of the 6 great sacred grounds of the 8 extremities world, Broad Creed Mountain is actually a place that harbors evil, secretly communicating with the 9 underworlds and establishing the decimating abyss, intending to guide the 9 underworlds to descend into our 8 extremities world, causing the evil devils to wreak havoc and plunge all living beings into misery and suffering. Your Broad Creed Mountain has brought calamity to the common people, and everyone has the right to punish you. Hearing his words, the faces of Elder Zhang and the other Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners all changed, greatly enraged. A female's voice resounded, the Sacred Sun clan is indeed still this shameless. The one who had spoken was Fu Enshu, her brows arching upwards, battle flame devils, your Sacred Sun clan has only been working without putting in any effort, intent on preserving your strength. Now that our clan has consecutively obstructed the descent of the 9 underworlds, even battling the decimating abyss in a bloody battle, exterminating them, you have instead come to take advantage of us. I've never seen the glory of your so-called #1 Holy Land in external battles. Only the internal battles between the holy lands of the human race have come to show off. Fu Enshu shouted angrily, now you still dare to come and smear our sect, you are truly shameless. The world-illuminating Lord said in an indifferent tone, isn't my Sacred Sun clan currently purging the spies of the 8 extremities world, returning peace to this world and severing the possibility of the 9 underworlds descending? He appraised Broad Creed Mountain with his gaze. You are currently planning for the descent of the 9 underworlds, and my sacred Sun clan has specially come to stop you. That is all. Facing powerful enemies, while Broad Creed Mountain felt immense pressure, from Elder Zhang, Elder Gong, Fu Enshu, and the other bigwigs up to the other martial practitioners of the clan, they were all on high alert. On the thunder-shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge crossed his arms before his chest, his gaze shifting between Pan Butai, the world-illuminating lord, Lin Tianfeng, and the others, as well as that lofty Huang Guanglie high up above. Facing the death threat of a transcending mortality martial grandmaster like Pan Butai, Yan Zhaoge's face showed no fear. Currently, he was only analyzing the situation very seriously. The situation before him required him to make arrangements for himself, to choose a suitable target. Or rather, to choose a target. Swiveling his head to look in the direction of the back mountains converting Lake Peak, Yan Zhaoge thought, I wonder if Grand Master will be able to make it in time. According to his original estimation, it should only be these 2 days, while their thoughts might not be the same as Yan Zhaoge's, with powerful enemies bearing down on them at this moment. There were also other martial practitioners of Broad Creed Mountain who unconsciously looked in the direction of the back mountains converting Lake Peak. There, an old man who had always protected Broad Creed Mountain for many years, was taking a risk for Broad Creed Mountain. But very quickly, the expressions of these Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners all dimmed. First, not speaking of the fact that this old man was risking his life, either succeeding or dying. Even if he succeeded, it wouldn't be within such a short period of time. Huang Guanglie's voice resounded from within the air, Yan Di, I'll tell you plainly, this old man has brought the great sun heaven measuring ruler along with me. The reason why I'm not using it is because you are a rare talent. In the final battle of your life, this old man will let your brilliance blossom before the eyes of the world. But if you place your hopes on Yuan Jingfeng, then you'd better give up early. Yuan Jingfeng, he's not just a step slower than this old man. With his old injuries, even if he can successfully step into the martial saint realm, he would still need at least a year's time. This old man knows that he has only been in seclusion for a few months. Do you think that this old man will need more than half a year to break through to your Broad Creed Mountain? First try and see if you can block this old man for a quarter of an hour. Huang Guanglie's voice reverberated between the heavens and the earth, reverberating throughout the entire central heaven region. Moreover, this old man has emerged from seclusion successfully this time. With the great sun heaven measuring ruler in hand, even if Yuan Jingfeng has also become a martial saint, this old man will definitely trample over this Broad Creed Mountain today. Now, the back mountain of Broad Creed Mountain abruptly shook intensely, a boundlessly majestic will that seemed to be as high as the heavens emanating from within. Unreasonable old Huang, the wind is too strong, it'll cut your tongue. A massive pillar of light rose from converting Lake Peak, shooting straight into the horizon, a figure indistinctly visible within. Beneath converting Lake Peak, Elder He who had always been guarding over Yan Di had no time to rejoice. His hands changed as a rune arose, landing on the back of that person within the pillar of light. That person raised his palm towards the heavens, the runes of the clear Qi Grand Formation on Yan Di's saber light instantly flying out, landing on that person's palm. Having lost the help of the clear Qi Grand Formation, Huang Guanglie's terrifying power instantly pressured over with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. However, that figure in the air above converting Lake Peak strode forward, already arriving before Yan Di, raising a palm. Under the violent clash of forces, the massive heaven-obscuring hand directly shattered the golden light condensed of Huang Guanglie's 3 suns opening heaven. Huang Guanglie's explosive roar resounded between the heavens and the earth. Yuan Zheng Feng. Chapter 310. A figure appeared before him. He did not look tall, merely being an old man with a medium build. However, as this old man stood there, his body seemed as tall as the heavens. It was precisely Broad Creed Mountain's old chief, Yuan Zhengfeng. Within the sky, Huang Guanglia looked down on Yuan Zhengfeng. You actually left seclusion so quickly, even successfully transcending tribulation and entering sainthood? Before you entered seclusion, your old injuries had already recovered. Huang Guanglia quickly understood. How did you do it? If your injuries had long since healed, why didn't you enter seclusion earlier? Could it be that you were waiting to play a trick on me? Yuan Zhengfeng smiled. It's not as senseless as you think. It was just that you were unlucky and I was lucky. Looking at the old chief on the heaven-rising peak, the Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners all let out cheers. Meanwhile, the expressions of the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall martial practitioners of the World Illuminating Lord, Pan Butai and Lin Tianfeng were no longer relaxed. Not only had Yuan Zhengfeng successfully stepped into the martial saint realm, he had also left seclusion much earlier than everyone had expected. This truly caught them unprepared. At the end of the day, this was where Broad Creed Mountain was located. Yuan Zhengfeng held the home ground advantage here, bolstered by the clear Qi Grand Formation. Even if Huang Guanglia successfully ascended to a higher level in the martial saint realm, it was still unknown whether he would be able to defeat Yuan Zhengfeng here at Broad Creed Mountain. Looking at Yuan Zhengfeng, Huang Guanglia said slowly, even if you have transcended mortality and entered sainthood, even if you have left seclusion, so what? To this old man, there isn't much of a difference. Saying thus, Huang Guanglia raised his hands together, then pushed out horizontally with his palms. Majestic golden light congregated between his hands. All the other light between the heavens and the earth dimmed, seemingly all congregated within Huang Guanglia's hands. As the golden light flickered, resembling the true sun in the sky, it descended to less than 100,000 feet above the ground, infinite heat and destructive explosive power all concentrated here. Extreme Yang Fist, Sun Comes East. The title of the East Rising Martial Saint, Huang Guanglia, was derived from this. The violent power, with a destructive momentum, caused the heavens and earth around Broad Creed Mountain to completely turn into a furnace, turning into a world of golden light. However, in this world, a huge palm suddenly stretched out, as if it was pulling the surrounding world into its palm. Yuan Zhengfeng looked at Huang Guanglia. Old rude Huang, it's my fault. Yuan Zhengfeng spread his arms to the sides, bolstered by the clear Qi robe, his majestic power skyrocketing once more, comparable to the heavens. He mightily struck out with the heavenly Broad Creed palm once more, forcibly meeting Huang Guanglia and the great sun heaven measuring ruler head-on. As the violent forces collided, the entire heavens and earth shook slightly. Cracks even vaguely appeared within the air, the very fabric of space breaking apart. On Broad Creed Mountain, after having taken off the clear Qi robe, Yan Di did not remain idle as he brandished the heavenly dragon saber, pointing it straight towards Pan Butai, the world illuminating lord and the others. The roar of a dragon resounded as a shocking saber intent shot into the skies. While Elder Zhang, Elder Gong and the others were heavily injured, beneath converting Lake Peak, Elder He could finally break free of her shackles, no longer having to stand her ground. Spreading her palms wide, she also attacked towards the enemies attacking the mountain. The momentum of Yan Di's saber resembled the heavens, as beneath that saber, the heavens seemed to be collapsing as a terrifying power enveloped the world illuminating lord, Pan Butai, Lin Tianfeng and the transcending mortality martial grandmasters of the Heavenly Thunder Hall. What shocked Pan Butai and the others was that even with so many of them facing Yan Di, they actually felt that they were unable to withstand him. The four all retreated in defeat. Gazing at Pan Butai, Yan Di said coldly, "Just now, who did you say you wanted to pay with your life?" Amidst Pan Butai's furious roar, he raised his high-grade spirit artifact saber, chopping towards Yan Di with a west-tilting heaven incinerating saber. Beneath Yan Di's saber, Pan Butai's weapon flew out of his hands. The true martial avatar he had attained after entering transcending mortality, the west-tilting heaven incinerating avatar, was directly hacked into two by Yan Di. Pan Butai was both shocked and enraged, only to see Yen Di retract his weapon. If not for you disrupting the clear Qi Grand Formation, our clan would not have had to expend so much effort in suppressing the decimating abyss. My eldest apprentice brother would not have needed to sacrifice himself for a noble cause, and my broad Creed Mountain would also not have suffered such great casualties as it has now. A cold light flickered within his tiger-like eyes as Yen Di abruptly raised his hand into a fist, his fist bright as Vajra. The head of the 8 extreme arts, the martial art that the Iron Lion King Shi Tai had been proficient in, Vajra body. Yen Di mightily punched forward. Like a kite whose string had been cut, Pan Butai was sent flying. Seeing this, the faces of the world-illuminating Lord, Lin Tianfeng, and the others all changed as they began retreating. Chapter 311. At the top of the thunder-shaking peak, lines and lines interweaved. They looked very ordinary, as if a child was scribbling on the ground with a wooden stick. However, accompanied by Yen Zhaoge's stomp, the ordinary-looking pattern which had still seemed completely ordinary a moment ago lit up with a blurry radiance the next moment. Yen Zhaoge slowly inhaled, slowly exhaled, before raising his palm. He suddenly knelt down on one knee and slammed his palm on the center of the formation pattern on the peak of thunder-shaking peak. The glowing formation quickly began to operate. Between the numerous peaks of broad Creed Mountain, streams of strange qi suddenly surged into the skies. There were a total of 9 streams of air, and within each stream of air, there was a dark red light flashing, which was strange and unpredictable. The eyes of Yuan Zhengfeng, who was currently clashing with Huang Guanglie, flashed as the spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation surfaced within his pupils. Then, the runes in his left pupil gradually dissipated. Behind him, there was also a rune shining. It was the one that Elder He had left on him when he had just come out of seclusion. At the same time, Elder He sent a voice transmission to Yuan Zhengfeng to explain the situation to him as quickly as possible. Yuan Zhengfeng currently did not feel surprised in the slightest as he circulated the power of the clear qi robe, resisting Huang Guanglie with all his might. Huang Guanglie only felt that the pressure that Yuan Zhengfeng was exerting on him had suddenly decreased. The experienced East-coming martial saint did not feel happy because of this. He knew very well whether Yuan Zhengfeng was a spent force or not. Just like him, Yuan Zhengfeng had come out of seclusion perfectly. His body was in peak condition, and there was no problem at all. His strength had weakened merely because the power of the clear qi grand formation was no longer fully supporting him. Then, where had the other portion of the clear qi grand formation's power gone to now? On the thunder-shocking peak, white light suddenly flickered within Yen Zhaoge's left pupil, 3 specks of golden light flickering within. The next moment, the spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation appeared within Yen Zhaoge's left pupil. Yen Zhaoge pressed his right palm on the ground of the mountain peak, his left hand extending towards the bald sky. Accompanied by Yen Zhaoge's outstretched hand, the spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation surfaced within the sky, merging with the numerous strange red streams of qi that shot into the skies above broad Creed Mountain range. The runes of the clear qi grand formation which had originally flickered with white light were gradually dyed with a layer of strange red at this moment. At the same time, at the foot of the Water Ridge Peak, in the heaven-sealing gorge. Here, a tall tower stood tall. The shape of the pagoda was exactly the same as the golden pagoda at the core of the demonic domain grand formation that guided the descent of the 9 underworlds. However, this tower was not golden, and there were no chain-like black runes winding around it. There was also no strange red door of light at the top of the tower. The entire tower was emitting a dark red light. It was just that following Yen Zhaoge's special manipulation techniques, these lights did not radiate outwards as they were concealed within the darkness of the heaven-sealing gorge. This dark red pagoda was like the spirit patterns that Yen Zhaoge had inscribed at the top of the thunder-shocking peak earlier. No aura of power leaked out from it. A figure sat on the tall red tower. It was precisely Feng Zhuan. He had been waiting quietly and did not make a move. Even when the enemy attacked the mountain at its most critical moment, he still did not make any move. Now, feeling the changes in Broad Creed Mountain and the clear Qi Grand Formation, a bright light flashed within Fang Zhuan's eyes. He made a simple action, which was to get up and leave the dark red tower. Accompanied by Fang Zhuan's departure, the dark red tower which had been completely silent earlier instantly lit up. The 9 strange dark red streams of qi between Broad Creed Mountain Range floated upwards into the sky, merging with the spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation in the sky, while descending downwards, congregating within the heaven-sealing gorge. 9 thick chains appeared out of thin air. They were all dark red in color, and they wrapped around the tower. The tall red tower rumbled, not growing in size, instead beginning to gradually shrink. On the thunder-shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge looked up into the sky, overseeing the overall situation. There, the spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation had already turned completely dark red. Yan Zhaoge clenched his left hand into a fist, punching outwards. On the back of his left hand, a sigil suddenly lit up. That was the devilish mark that had sealed the Great 9 Underworld's door in the Sand region. The spirit patterns of the clear qi grand formation in the sky shook mightily, before a pillar of light descended, enveloping Yan Zhaoge. With Yan Zhaoge as their center, numerous spirit patterns extended outwards, one spirit pattern after another. Yet another miniature spirit pattern of the clear qi grand formation appeared at the top of the thunder-shocking peak. The 2 formations, one large, one small, formed 2 massive rings of light, encircling the mountain peak. The 2 rings of light, one internal, one external, one clockwise, one anti-clockwise, all circulated simultaneously. In the outside world, Broad Creed Mountain Range shook simultaneously at this moment. The tall red tower within the heaven-sealing gorge rapidly shrunk, while the clear qi grand formation in the sky circulated to the maximum at this moment. When the tall red tower completely disappeared, a tiny black dot shockingly appeared at the center of the dark red, clear qi grand formation. This black dot grew larger unceasingly, finally transforming into an existence that resembled a black hole. It seemed to lead to a boundless, unknown land, but a shocking aura emanated from within. In the surroundings of Broad Creed Mountain, the world-illuminating Lord, Lin Tianfeng, and the others all looked shocked at this scene. Feeling that something was wrong, they wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. The dark red clear qi grand formation collapsed mightily, transforming into all-encompassing strange red light, enveloping the enemies attacking Broad Creed Mountain. One by one, starting from the world-illuminating Lord, Lin Tianfeng and the others, all the martial practitioners of the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall who had arrived were enveloped by the red light, their bodies then involuntarily flying towards that black hole. The world-illuminating Lord roared anxiously, immeasurable radiance radiating from his palm as the heavenly altar erected, 8 suns appearing as he executed the supreme martial art of light illuminating all, great white beneath the heavens. Lin Tianfeng roared furiously, his entire body flickering with the light of thunder as the heavenly altar of purplish-green lightning condensed as he executed the supreme martial art of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, the 9 rotating Thunder King Saber, all-encompassing thunderbolts rampaging throughout the sky. Pan Butai, who had been heavily injured by Yan Di, now also struggled to circulate his strength, wanting to resist the pull of the strange formation before him. That transcending mortality martial grandmaster of the Heavenly Thunder Hall who was battling Elder, he also used his full strength, his true martial avatar rising, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth. Enveloped within the red light, Yan Di, Elder He and the other Broad Creed Mountain experts were not affected in the slightest as they now launched their attacks, killing or crippling their opponents one by one. The world-illuminating Lord, Lin Tianfeng and the others had originally been resisting the red light with all their might. Now, being attacked once more, they were instantly powerless to resist as they were dragged towards the black hole at lightning speed. Feeling the terrifying aura within, everyone cried out in shock. 9 underworlds. That red light shot towards Huang Guanglie in midair. Huang Guanglie snorted coldly, wanting to repel the red light. However, as Yuan Zhengfeng struck out with a palm, Huang Guanglie was momentarily distracted as he was instantly dragged along by the red light. Wanting to break free, Yuan Zhengfeng's attacks that seemed to be able to topple the heavens and overturn the seas pressured down from the side, causing him to be completely unable to focus on dealing with the variant clear qi grand formation that Yan Zhaoge controlled. As an exalted martial saint with a sacred artifact in hand, Huang Guanglie could only helplessly be pulled along. In the blink of an eye, the black hole was right before him. Flames that surged to the heavens flashed within Huang Guanglie's eyes. Feeling the terrifying aura within that black hole, he clenched his teeth, glancing at the great sun heaven measuring ruler within his hands. With a wild howl that shook the heavens, Huang Guanglie dropped his great sun heaven measuring ruler. As violent golden light flickered, the red light that enveloped Huang Guanglie as well as the attacking Yuan Zhengfeng were both jolted into retreat. Huang Guanglie transformed into a golden light, instantly leaving far away. His eyes bloodshot, looking back, he saw the ancestral treasure of the sacred Sun clan, one of the few sacred artifacts of the Eight Extremities world, the great sun heaven measuring ruler, shuddering as it was still sucked into that black hole, sent to the legendary 9 underworlds. In the air above Broad Creed Mountain, the strange dark red grand formation circulated, seeming to have transformed into a bloody slaughterhouse at this moment. The black hole within the sky resembled a meat grinder, resembled a millstone, resembled the opened mouth of a massive beast that devoured the heavens. The world-illuminating lord, Pan Butai, Lin Tianfeng, one martial practitioner after another of the sacred Sun clan and the heavenly Thunder Hall was buried here. Chapter 312. The violent black hole in the sky not only led to the terrifying 9 underworlds, but the distorted space also formed a huge destructive force. Many of the martial artists who were sucked into it had their bodies torn apart by the ruptured space when they approached the black hole. The already heavily injured Grand Elder of the Sacred Sun clan, Pan Butai, let out a furious roar that shocked the heavens, Yan Zhaoge. Yan Di. With a furious roar, half of his body was swallowed by the black hole, but the space around him was distorted. The heavily injured Pan Butai was powerless to resist, as his body was directly chopped in half by the terrifying void energy. Pan Butai, a transcendent martial grandmaster of the same generation as Huang Guanglie, Yuan Zhengfeng, and the others, who had dominated the world for many years, had perished in the void. The head of the Sacred Sun clan's world-illuminating lord of this generation's 7 reigning sons, Lin Tianfeng of the Heavenly Thunder Hall as well as a Grand Elder of the Heavenly Thunder Hall were swept within the black hole together. The terrifying dark red grand formation within the sky and that black hole wreaked havoc at this moment, wreaking havoc on the souls of all who had invaded Broad Creed Mountain. Within the black hole, a speck of golden light floated up and down, struggling unceasingly. It was the saint weapon, the great sun heaven measuring ruler. But now that the great sun heaven measuring ruler had lost its master, although it was strong, it was gradually swept away by the black hole and disappeared without a trace. Huang Guanglie broke free from the dark red light of the formation and flew far away. Looking back, he saw that his holy weapon had finally been swallowed by the black hole. At this moment, the East Emergence martial saint was so enraged that he almost vomited blood. The great sun heaven measuring ruler, the supreme treasure of the sacred Sun clan, having been passed down for many years, it had always been the symbol of the clan, as well as the important thing that allowed the sacred Sun clan to stand tall in this world. When the clan did not have a martial saint, or when he, Huang Guanglie, had been in secluded cultivation, it had been the great sun heaven measuring ruler that had supported the sacred Sun clan from falling, maintaining its mighty name as it contended with the other sacred grounds. Even if the sect was weak for a while, it still had enough resources to make others not dare to offend it. Like Broad Creed Mountain's clear chi robe and infinite boundless mountain's heaven-cleaving axe. Meanwhile, the reason why the Sacred Sun clan had been able to sit stably on the throne of the number one sacred ground of the Eight Extremities world in recent years was because of Huang Guanglia's status as a martial saint, existing alongside the sacred artifact, the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler, being the only one of its kind in the Eight Extremities world, able to suppress the other sacred grounds. Huang Guanglia had painstakingly been in secluded cultivation for many years. During the War of the Eastern Tang, when Broad Creed Mountain had counterattacked the Fire Domain, he had forcibly endured and not emerged from seclusion. Having broken out of seclusion this time, his cultivation base had advanced a step further, his momentum had truly shocked the heavens as he had drawn the attention of the entire Eight Extremities world. Even their original ally, the Heavenly Thunder Hall, was beginning to feel uneasy. The reason why Huang Guanglia did not use the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler when he attacked the mountain was because he had misjudged the time Yuanzheng Feng would come out of seclusion, and he had absolute confidence in himself. On the other hand, it was to intimidate the Heavenly Thunder Hall and Infinite Boundless Mountain. This time, Huang Guanglia brought the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler to the Heaven region in the north. He was like the great sun in the sky, like a tiger that was going to sweep the world. The Sacred Sun clan, which had originally been the number one sacred ground of the current Eight Extremities world, whether it was in terms of strength or reputation, had both skyrocketed here. Their first target was yet another death-secluded cultivation of their chief, Broad Creed Mountain, who had just suffered a great tribulation at the same time. The battle hadn't even begun, but the outcome seemed to have been decided. Huang Guanglia was full of confidence when Yuanzheng Feng successfully broke out of seclusion and displayed his shocking strength. At most, he only felt a little regretful that their advantage was no longer so obvious. However, even if they were unable to take down Broad Creed Mountain, he and his subordinates of the Sacred Sun clan would still be able to retreat unscathed, suppressing Yuanzheng Feng and the others from outside Broad Creed Mountain, not daring to leave the Clear Qi Grand Formation. This way, other than the Central Heaven region, the other four regions of the Heaven Domain as well as the lands of the Wind Domain would all be taken in by the Sacred Sun clan, allowing them to rampage as they pleased. However, Huang Guanglia would never have thought that a life-seizing formation would suddenly appear within the sky. If not for him having reacted in time and cut his losses, even he himself might have been sucked in by that black hole. Now, while he had managed to escape, the Sacred Sun clan experts who had come to Broad Creed Mountain this time had all been wiped out. Shenli said in a heavy tone, "Chu Yan, what does your Infinite Boundless Mountain say?" The current chief of Infinite Boundless Mountain, who wielded the heaven-cleaving axe, the northern peak towering sky, Chu Yan, was silent. The vigorous aura of the heaven-cleaving axe shook slightly, but it did not show any enmity towards Broad Creed Mountain, just seeming to be very wary of the Great Nine Underworld's door that had just appeared in the sky in reverse. Yuanzheng Feng chuckled, "Shenli, after mixing around with old unreasonable Huang for so long, you have also fallen for that bad habit of him of slandering others." Shenli said coldly, "The circulation of your Broad Creed Mountain's Guardian Grand Formation actually opened a passageway to the Nine Underworlds. This is indisputable." On the thunder-shocking peak, Yan Zhaoge raised his eyes to look at the sky, looking at the Clear Qi Grand Formation that had turned from dark red to white once more as he said slowly, "Hall Lord Shen misunderstands. In addition to exterminating the decimating abyss, in order to prevent the descent of the Nine Underworlds, our clan went all out, finally relying on our Guardian Grand Formation to seal the door to the descent of the Nine Underworlds. It is just that this placed a great burden on our clan's Guardian Grand Formation. If we were attacked by external enemies again, it would inevitably be unable to bear the burden, resulting in the abnormality just now occurring. We were also very surprised by such a result. Fortunately, the passageway was in reverse. Our clan really made a great sacrifice, bearing a great risk for the safety of the Eight Extremities world. For the Eight Extremities world, for the human realm, my Broad Creed Mountain is duty-bound to do so, also not expecting any repayment. We just hope that our fellow Taoists can understand a little. At the very least, don't come touching our clan's Clear Qi Grand Formation. Otherwise, no one can guarantee what else might happen. It can also be considered that everyone is of one mind, resisting the calamity of the 9 underworlds together. Chapter 313. Yan Zhaoge spoke slowly, but the meaning behind his words was not all that polite. It was not just the Sacred Sun clan. During the chaos of the decimating abyss earlier, other than the Sacred Sun clan, the Heavenly Thunder Hall had similarly been involved in launching the Anti-Sun Grand Formation to disrupt it. If not for guarding against Infinite Boundless Mountain's heaven-cleaving axe, this Lord of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, Shenli, would probably have come to Broad Creed Mountain as well. While Lin Tianfeng and the others had died, the fury of all of Broad Creed Mountain towards the Heavenly Thunder Hall was not much less than that of the Sacred Sun clan. Bald Shen, from what you have said, in my opinion, your Heavenly Thunder Hall and the Sacred Sun clan are the traitors of the 9 underworlds. Garbed in the clear chi robe, Yuan Zhengfeng strode over in the direction of Shenli. My clan fought a bloody battle with the decimating abyss, finally exterminating them and even successfully preventing the 9 underworlds from descending within my Broad Creed Mountain and the 8 Extremities world. In the course of the great battle, your Heavenly Thunder Hall and the Sacred Sun clan disrupted our clan's clear chi grand formation together. Afterwards, you joined hands to attack us. What, do you want to take revenge for decimating abyss? To continue their unfinished business and let the 9 underworlds descend? Shenli gave a cold snort and his aura instantly went far away. A Grand Elder and a First Seat Elder of their clan, 2 heavyweights, along with a great number of other experts, had perished at Broad Creed Mountain. Not only would he be unable to take revenge, he would also have to flee. It was easy to imagine how depressed this Cyan Thunder Martial Saint was feeling. But at this moment, he had no choice but to retreat. Not to mention that Shenli was well aware of some matters and had never forgotten them. Even if he had momentarily forgotten them, the battle between Yuan Zhengfeng and Huang Guanglie earlier would allow him to immediately recall them. Once upon a time, heaven's equal, Yuan Zhengfeng was the strongest existence among his peers. While he was not renowned for being invincible like his disciple Yan Di, suppressing his generation and looking down on all lifetimes, Yuan Zhengfeng had also created a legend of his own that year. Yuan Zhengfeng had stepped into the peak of the martial grandmaster stage, the transcending mortality stage, much earlier than his peers Huang Guanglie, Shenli, Yuan Tian and Xian Dongping, not to mention the slightly younger Song Wuliang and Qinglin. Back then, when everyone was still young and had just started to rise to fame, Yuan Zhengfeng was the most outstanding one. He was also the one who was looked upon as the most likely to become a martial sage in the shortest time among those of the same generation. It was only because of his old injuries that Yuan Zhengfeng had remained in the transcendental realm all this time, which was why Huang Guanglie, Shenli, and the others had managed to catch up to him. Yuan Zhengfeng, who had wasted many years, had finally crossed that threshold and transcended mortality and entered sainthood. This immediately awakened many people's dusty memories. Of the previous 6 martial sages, aside from Old Man Mo, who was older and rarely fought, making it hard to determine his strength, the others were not a match for Yuan Zhengfeng at the same cultivation realm. The awe-inspiring Huang Guanglie had been fighting Yuan Zhengfeng for many years. When he was in the Grandmaster realm and Martial Grandmaster realm, he had never won. The number of times he had lost to Yuan Zhengfeng could not be counted on one hand. When the Lord of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, Shenli, had clashed with Yuan Zhengfeng back then at the Martial Grandmaster realm, he had also suffered a crushing defeat. Today, even though Yuan Zhengfeng had just stepped into the Saint realm, it was still difficult for Shenli to face him head-on. Moreover, Yuan Zhengfeng still had the sacred artifact, the clear chi robe, accompanying him. If it was said that after leaving Broad Creed Mountain, even without the great sun heaven measuring ruler, Huang Guanglie would still dare to battle Yuan Zhengfeng, without a sacred artifact in hand, Shenli could only turn and flee. While Shenli retreated, Yuan Zhengfeng did not let him have it easy, directly pressuring over with a heavenly Broad Creed palm. In the distance, in the direction where Shenli was, the sky seemed to have collapsed and the horizon seemed to have distorted. A muffled groan came from afar. Shenli did not accept the battle at all. His body transformed into a bolt of lightning, forcefully enduring his injuries as he swiftly retreated. Shenli flew all the way, passing through the territory of the East Heaven region where Broad Creed Mountain's martial practitioners had already shrunk earlier. After exiting the Earth domain, the Heavenly Thunder Hall martial practitioners had galloped here. Lin Tianfeng and the others had gone to Broad Creed Mountain in the Central Heaven region, and there were others who had established a base of operations here. But at this moment, these people watched in astonishment as their hall master flew past them. Rumbling thunder light wrapped around all of them. He didn't stop and continued flying in the direction of the Earth domain, passing through it and returning to the Thunder Dominion. Lin Zhou was amongst them, and when he saw there was only Shenli by himself, he couldn't help but be astounded. Grand Master, my father and martial ancestral uncle Yu. Shenli's face was livid and he did not say a word. Lin Zhou's face instantly turned deathly pale. He composed himself, sucking in a deep breath, wanting to ask further. However, looking at that terrifying expression on Shenli's face, Lin Zhou opened his mouth, yet was unable to utter a sound. Grand Master should have just suffered a small loss and is in a bad mood, thus looking like this. Lin Zhou thought to himself, nothing will happen to father and the others. Fighting Broad Creed Mountain, not having taken it down in the end, losing face. Lin Zhou gritted his teeth, but the Sacred Sun Clan's Huang Guanglia has already left seclusion. With the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler in hand and Grand Master also restraining Infinite Boundless Mountain's Heaven-Cleaving Axe, how could they not be able to take down Broad Creed Mountain who had just been heavily injured by the decimating abyss? Jade Sea City and Turbid Wave Pavilion have also been restrained by the Flame Devils on the East Sea. It would be impossible for them to traverse the Earth domain to help. Lin Zhou thought, perhaps it is because the Sacred Sun Clan obtained the clear Qi robe that Grand Master is so flustered and exasperated. This is the most likely scenario. If Broad Creed Mountain was destroyed, with even their sacred artifact, the clear Qi robe, also falling into the hands of the Sacred Sun Clan, the Sacred Sun Clan's momentum would truly be hard to resist, showing signs of sweeping through the entire world. At that time, the Heavenly Thunder Hall might have to make peace with Infinite Boundless Mountain, joining hands with Jade Sea City. It was to the extent that even Turbid Wave Pavilion would find it hard to continue remaining neutral, having no choice but to give up on its neutral stance. Otherwise, they too would have to look up to the Sacred Sun Clan. Lin Zhou kept comforting himself. However, after having returned to the Heavenly Thunder Hall and having calmed down, Shenli held an urgent discussion with the other longtime elders who had stayed behind. News from the outside world had also broken Lin Zhou's hopes. This thunder-rumbling young master who was already gradually revealing his flair as the number one of the Heavenly Thunder Hall's younger generation shut himself in a room by himself. Anyone who passed by the door of his room could feel the oppressive and violent feeling, as if a thunderstorm was brewing. Even Yan Shan, who had always been at odds with Lin Zhou, did not dare to approach Lin Zhou at this moment. After learning of this, the bigwigs of the Heavenly Thunder Hall all sighed. One day, the door suddenly opened and Lin Zhou walked out. Dark clouds covered his face, his gaze even colder and gloomier. I have carefully managed and painstakingly schemed precisely to defy the heavens and change my fate, but in the end, father still left me. Lin Zhou's expression was wooden as he gazed towards the southwest horizon, in the direction of the Heaven Domain and Broad Creed Mountain. Working hard for so long, still futile at the end of the day. What's the use of my efforts then? I might as well just go with the flow. Flames of fury suddenly surged within Lin Zhou's gaze, otherwise, I might as well overturn the heavens and overturn the earth. If I don't destroy your Broad Creed Mountain, I am not human. Chapter 314. Led by Yuan Zhengfeng, Broad Creed Mountain launched an all-out counterattack, regaining their lost territory. Making use of Huang Guanglia's loss of the great sun heaven measuring ruler and his own injuries, Broad Creed Mountain was unforgiving as they invaded the fire domain once more. The Sacred Sun clan martial practitioners felt that this development was rather familiar. Back in the War of the Eastern Tang, it seemed to have been like this, first winning, then losing. Not only had they lost all that they had won previously, they had even lost all that they had won previously. A familiar process, a familiar posture, all over again. Therefore, even that feeling of vexation to the point of wanting to vomit blood was exactly the same, perhaps even surpassing it. Knowing that their sacred artifact, the great sun heaven measuring ruler, had actually been lost in this battle, the entire Sacred Sun clan was rendered speechless for a time. On the world-illuminating peak, sunlight no longer shone brilliantly, instead appearing rather gloomy and gloomy. The Grand Elder Pan Butai and the head of the 7 reigning suns, the world-illuminating lord, had both perished at the foot of Broad Creed Mountain. Seated in the Great Hall, the Sunset Lord's expression was incomparably ugly. He had also gone to the Heaven Domain, having remained in the South Heaven region to suppress it, not following Broad Creed Mountain any further. Otherwise, it would be very hard to imagine that with everyone else other than Huang Guanglia having been wiped out, he had still managed to survive. However, even as the Sunset Lord felt slightly fortunate, he also felt indescribably ashamed and embarrassed. The Sacred Sun clan's conquest of the Heaven Domain's Plaza Mountain this time could no longer be described as having come in high spirits and returned in low spirits. They had basically smashed their heads and bled, nearly dying at the foot of Broad Creed Mountain. Their high spirits and satisfaction before setting off now seemed to have completely become a joke. The current chief Huang Su's face was sunken as water as he gazed at the room before him. After returning to the mountain, Huang Guanglia had entered the room to recuperate, recovering from the injuries Yuan Zhengfeng had inflicted on him. After recovering from his injuries, if he met Yuan Zhengfeng and the clear qi robe outside of Broad Creed Mountain, Huang Guanglia would still have the strength to battle them. If Yuan Zhengfeng rushed over to trample the world-illuminating peak, the situation would be completely reversed. Even injured, Huang Guanglia would not fear him. It was just that even so, the momentum he had felt when he had first emerged from seclusion, wanting to sweep through the entire world came to an abrupt halt, broken at the middle. Losing the great sun heaven measuring ruler was an unbearable pain. After looking at the room for a while, Huang Su retracted his gaze, swiveling his head, his gaze sweeping past the higher echelons of the Sacred Sun clan before him. His voice was low and deep. Defend and wait for reinforcements. Step by step. After my father recovers, the fire field will still belong to the Holy Clan. The boundary between the two sides will still be the boundary between the Heaven Field and the Fire Field. The bigwigs of the Sacred Sun clan all nodded. Huang Guanglia's grandson and Huang Su's son, Huang Jia, stood at the back of the crowd without any sense of presence. Huang Jia was calm and collected about this, but his face revealed an expression of deep thought. Huang Su glanced at Huang Jia. At this moment, Huang Jia had completely returned to normal. When Huang Guanglia had just returned to the mountain and received the exact news, Huang Jia's shocked expression was still fresh in his memory. Even his father, Huang Su, rarely saw Huang Jia like this. To be exact, he hadn't seen him like this for a very long time. Even when the Sacred Sun clan had suffered a great loss in the Battle of the Eastern Tang back then, after Huang Jia had learned of it, he had only mildly commented, not being secretive in our actions, the other side saw through us and backstabbed us instead. As the others dispersed, Huang Su's gaze fell on Huang Jia. Huang Jia stopped pondering, raising his head and saying, Yuan Zhengfeng leaving seclusion early is actually not much. While we don't know how exactly he managed to recover from his injuries, this is still within the plan. Huang Su nodded. In their original projections, the worst-case scenario had been for Yuan Zhengfeng to leave seclusion earlier than Huang Guanglia. In that case, the Sacred Sun clan would have to defend the world-illuminating peak to the death. With the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler still present, it would not be so easy for Broad Creed Mountain and the other powers to trample on the Sacred Sun clan. In the end, Huang Guanglie had left seclusion a step earlier. Even if Yuan Zhengfeng had managed to catch up and left seclusion earlier than under normal circumstances, it would not have mattered. At the very most, they would not have been able to completely destroy Broad Creed Mountain. However, under the pressure of Huang Guanglie and the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler, they would have been able to suppress Yuan Zhengfeng and the Clear Qi robe to the point that they were unable to leave the Clear Qi Grand Formation. This way, the Sacred Sun clan would have been able to easily devour the Heaven Domain, strengthening themselves further. As the strong grew stronger, victory would ultimately belong to the Sacred Sun clan. This was the immense, tangible advantage brought about by Huang Guanglie having left seclusion successfully, his strength having improved a step further. With just the slightest hint of movement, they pounce over like sharks that have seen blood. Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes into slits. There has always been the principle of catching a thief for 1,000 days, but never the principle of guarding against a thief for 1,000 days. Sacred Sun Clan, Heavenly Thunder Hall, it can't be that you think that we will just let this go like this, right? Chapter 315. Sacred Sun Clan, Heavenly Thunder Hall, we have only just begun. Yan Zhaoge gazed at the Clear Qi Grand Formation within the sky. At this time, the shining formation patterns had already begun to disappear into the void again. Yan Zhaoge lowered his head to look at the numerous peaks of Broad Creed Mountain before him. The streams of dark red qi that had arisen earlier had already vanished. The specially processed 9 underworlds dark soil, combined with the modified Devilish Domain Grand Formation and Broad Creed Mountain's own Clear Qi Grand Formation, displayed shocking power. However, following the disappearance of the devilish mark on Yan Zhaoge's hand, wanting to open up a passageway to the 9 underworlds again would not be easy. But even so, Broad Creed Mountain's Clear Qi Grand Formation had also improved from its original foundation. The current Clear Qi Grand Formation was a peak existence amongst the various grand formations of the entire 8 extremities world. Xian Dongping and the decimating abyss had caused massive destruction, but the spoils of war that they had obtained from them were also extremely abundant, having many unexpected, wondrous uses that could greatly increase Broad Creed Mountain's strength. Currently, within Yan Zhaoge's palm was a dim blue jade that flickered with a faint blue light. The luster was dim and almost undetectable, but the color was extremely pure. This jade's name was Blue Devil Jade, and it was produced in the Earth domain. However, it was extremely rare, and it was almost impossible to find. In the shadow shrinking pouch that Xian Dongping carried with him, there was a large amount of Blue Devil Jade. Not only were there many of them, their quality was also extremely good. Yan Zhaoge toyed with a piece of Blue Devil Jade, stroking its surface as he pondered in silence. Apart from the Blue Devil Jade, Xian Dongping, Yuan Tian, and the others also had his Heavenly Lake Jade, Ghost Body Congealed Ointment and many other high-grade treasures, causing one to feel overwhelmed. This time, in counterattacking the fire domain that the Sacred Sun clan had occupied once more, Broad Creed Mountain would also have many gains. Yan Zhaoge had already asked people to pay special attention to a few treasures, including things like the fire pattern jade and the underground fire pith which they had plundered previously and which they had already used up. It was foreseeable that this would be another great harvest. At the same time, news also came from the wind domain to the west that Broad Creed Mountain's powerful counterattack had already descended south from the Gan region, attacking the Qin region that the Sacred Sun clan had occupied. They followed up their victory and did not show any mercy. With Huang Guanglie injured and the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler lost, the Sacred Sun clan could only grit their teeth and swallow this bitter pill once more. When Huang Guanglie had finally recovered from his injuries and was preparing to counterattack, Broad Creed Mountain released something else. In Xian Dongping's hands was the complete list of decimating abyss members. There was no lack of people from the other 5 sacred lands. The authenticity of this name list naturally had to be carefully examined. It wasn't that there wasn't the possibility of Xian Dongping purposefully making false accusations, causing the people of the 8 extremities world to panic. However, its value was also self-evident. Broad Creed Mountain's momentum was established, pressuring the Sacred Sun clan to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads. At the same time, the mountain domain's sacred ground, Infinite Boundless Mountain, was also unceasingly exerting pressure on the Heavenly Thunder Hall. What caused Yan Zhaoge to feel emotional was that while Infinite Boundless Mountain had stood on Broad Creed Mountain's side from the beginning to the end, in the Great Battle of Broad Creed Mountain had even restrained the Heavenly Thunder Hall. But if Huang Guanglie were to die at the foot of Broad Creed Mountain, Infinite Boundless Mountain's stance would be hard to predict, with even Jade Sea City having other thoughts. The game between the top forces would always change due to the changes in the situation. When Yuan Zhengfeng and the others returned to Broad Creed Mountain, it was already many days later. Through the concerted efforts of all of Broad Creed Mountain, their clan finally regained its former appearance. The only special thing was that the fire leaving Peak's peak had been sharpened. The clan's experts had flattened it once more, just that the height of the peak had been slightly shorter than before. Not long after Yuan Zhengfeng's return, Broad Creed Mountain announced to the world, selectively announcing the entire story of the decimating abyss. As well as the news of the deaths of the Devil Saint Yuan Tian and Xian Dongping. Broad Creed Mountain didn't hide Xian Dongping's true identity, instead announcing to the world that they were cleaning up after themselves. While there had long been rumors, when Broad Creed Mountain itself announced it, it still shook the world. Other than the problem of the decimating abyss, Broad Creed Mountain naturally didn't have the intention of letting the attacks of the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall off lightly. Both sides had their own arguments, some wrangling was unavoidable. It was just that the momentum of the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall seemed a little weak no matter how one looked at it. And not long after that, Broad Creed Mountain announced to the world once more that the old chief, Yuan Zhengfeng, had officially abdicated his position, no longer holding the position of Broad Creed Mountain's chief, instead becoming a grand elder, devoting himself to cultivation. Broad Creed Mountain's new chief was Yan Di, who had previously assumed the role of chief. Yan Zhaoge's father, Yan Di, officially became Broad Creed Mountain's new chief. Broad Creed Mountain's legacy continued once more. Whether it was the battle with the decimating abyss earlier or the battle with the Sacred Sun clan afterwards, many details were revealed, with the name of Yan Wudi officially resounding once more in the great lands of the 8 extremities world. After dominating the martial scholar realm, Yan Di once again overlooked all the martial grandmasters of the entire 8 extremities world. Infinite Boundless Mountain's chief, the northern peak towering sky, Chu Yan, sent people to congratulate him, congratulating Yan Di on becoming Broad Creed Mountain's new chief on one hand, and also congratulating Yuan Zhengfeng on transcending mortality and entering sainthood, stepping into the martial saint realm. In the congratulatory note sent to Yuan Zhengfeng, Chu Yan changed the way he addressed Yuan Zhengfeng from heaven equaling hand to heaven equaling saint. Seeing this, a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of Yan Zhaoge's mouth. Broad Creed Mountain's tradition was that the successive clan leaders were all addressed with heaven, starting from their founder, the heaven-establishing old man Qiu Yuan, all the way until now. His Grand Master had been no exception when he had assumed the position of clan leader that year. The title he had prepared at that time had actually been heaven equaling saint. It was just that Yuan Zhengfeng, considering that he had not transcended mortality and entered sainthood, had changed it to heaven equaling hand. Now, the title of heaven equaling saint was finally well deserved. Not waiting for Broad Creed Mountain to inform them, Infinite Boundless Mountain's chief Chu Yan having taken the initiative to change the title, undoubtedly also expressing his sincerity in continuing their alliance. As for what Infinite Boundless Mountain was planning in private, that was another matter altogether. After all, it was not just the Sacred Sun clan now, even Broad Creed Mountain had risen once more, clearly being stronger than the other 4 sacred grounds. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head to look at his father, Yan Di. The chaos of the flame devils on the East Sea has still not been quelled, and Jade Sea City and Turbid Wave Pavilion are still entangled with them. However, after receiving the news, they have also sent people to congratulate us, who will be arriving very soon. After Grand Master, you will also be taking over the position of clan leader. How should I address you? Actually, I still feel that Yan Wudi suits you the best. Yan Di said, I have never cared about such things, Master can just decide. After nodding, Yan Zhaoge said, after this matter, I have to make some preparations. When the time comes, I might need the clan to help me gather some resources. Right, outside of the heaven domain, I will need to negotiate with the other sacred grounds. Yan Di gazed over, extremely solemn, regarding eldest apprentice brother's daughter-in-law, Ying Yuzhen, and little June, her? Yan Zhaoge's expression was serious. I have some ideas. While I do not have sufficient confidence, I will definitely do my best. Chapter 316. When Shi Tai's grandson, Shi Songtao's son, Shi Jun, had been born that year, Yan Di had been present as well, watching the little fella grow from an infant in swaddling clothes to learning to walk on his own. The little fellow's name was given by Yuan Jingfeng. All of Broad Creed Mountain paid close attention to the sole descendant left behind by Shi Tai. Yan Di looked at Yan Zhaoge. What do you have in mind? What do you need? Yan Zhaoge answered earnestly, my thoughts are still not mature yet. I intend to make a trip to the extreme northern lands, only coming to a conclusion after I have gone there and investigated the area. However, I can't rush it for the time being. The northernmost land is currently in the freezing period. It's useless even if I go there. I can take advantage of this period of time to carefully make some preparations. At the same time, I can ponder over my own method. There are some things that I need you and the sect to help me gather. It involves negotiations with other holy lands outside of the heaven domain. I will give you a list later. While Yan Zhaoge had the authority to make use of the clan's resources, it would be better for Yan Di and the others to appear when it came to foreign matters. Now that Yan Zhaoge's name could also be considered to have spread far and wide, it would be very easy for others to notice him if he were to look for some things with his personal identity. Yan Di nodded, pass the list to me directly after it has been compiled. Heading to the extreme northern lands this time, I also intend to go to the North Sea to take a look, Yan Zhaoge said. Yan Di thought of something as his gaze flickered. You want to find the legacy left behind by the glacial dragon martial saint? Yan Zhaoge nodded, I've already made some headway on the clues that I've grasped earlier. In the following days, I might be able to gain something from them. If I can obtain even more clues from this, it should be something worth looking forward to. Now, the expressions of Yan Zhaoge and Yan Di both dimmed somewhat. Back then, Shi Tai had obtained the small metal plate from Yi Jing's hands because he had gone to the northern sea to search for clues left behind by the glacial dragon martial saint. After Shi Tai returned, he brought back some things regarding the Earth domain and the 9 underworlds, as well as some clues regarding the glacial dragon martial saint's remains. As Yan Zhaoge analyzed the decimating abyss's devilish domain grand formation, other than clashing with it time and time again, the things that Shi Tai had brought back had also played a considerable role. However, the master of the decimating abyss, Xian Dongping, who had yet to be exposed at that time, naturally also benefited from it. Yan Di said, the glacial dragon martial saint has fallen far too long ago. While the whereabouts of his accompanying sacred artifact are unknown, no one can be certain that it truly exists in this world. If you wish to search for it, I will not object. Still, do not lose your bearings. Yan Zhaoge said, rest easy, father. I understand. Pausing for a moment, Yan Zhaoge said softly, the legacy of the glacial dragon martial saint is indeed something that cannot be confirmed. Therefore, I did not place all my bets on it. To be precise, this is just incidental, or even a cover-up. Yan Di raised his brows slightly. Oh. Yan Zhaoge said, having been attacked by the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall this time, all face can be considered to have been completely torn apart. Now that the situation has calmed down, it is merely because the two sides have regained their equilibrium in strength. The other party is powerful and will definitely make things difficult for our sect again. Ever since Huang Guanglia's master, the Purple Sun Marshal Saint Zhang Chao, and the final chief of Black Nightmare Mountain had attempted to invade Broad Creed Mountain while the exalted Heaven Shaker Zhan Dongge was in secluded cultivation, enmity had already been formed between the two sides. Afterwards, due to Zhan Dongge's death in the great battle with the Flame Devils, Broad Creed Mountain suffered a great blow to its vitality. As the Sacred Sun Clan gradually grew in power, Broad Creed Mountain's days had not been that easy. Fortunately, the Heaven Diviner Zhan Shilo had led Broad Creed Mountain in concealing their strength and biding their time, passing through that darkest period of time. However, after Zhan Shilo's death, Broad Creed Mountain no longer had a martial saint, their days becoming difficult once more. While the whereabouts of the Sacred Sun Clan's Purple Sun Marshal Saint Zhang Chao were also unknown, Huang Guanglia having transcended mortality and entered sainthood, with the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler in hand, his sharpness was just too great. While Yuan Zhengfeng was strong, and Broad Creed Mountain still had the clear Qi robe to hold down its foundation, they could only rely on the clear Qi Grand Formation, having no worries in defending, unable to advance as the Sacred Sun Clan could call on the wind and summon the rain, devouring and infiltrating step by step. At that time, Jade Sea City had been pincered by the Heavenly Thunder Hall and the Flame Devils of the East Sea, with Infinite Boundless Mountain having remained on the sidelines. Broad Creed Mountain had been under immense pressure. Otherwise, Fang Zhuan would not have set his sights on the Earth domain. In the end, Fang Zhuan managed to rein in the horse at the brink of the precipice, allowing Xian Dongping to continue walking down that path. Huang Guanglia, intent on completely stabilizing the Eight Extremities world, had therefore entered secluded cultivation in search of another breakthrough. Only then had Broad Creed Mountain gained a greater amount of space to move about. However, they had never once relaxed their hearts. If Huang Guanglia successfully emerged from seclusion, their momentum would definitely be even greater, and the Sacred Sun Clan would also become even more powerful. However, the situation was completely different now. Yuan Zhengfeng had transcended mortality and entered sainthood. While Huang Guanglia had also improved, he had lost the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler. Currently, with Yuan Zhengfeng and the clear Qi robe watching over Broad Creed Mountain, Huang Guanglia would definitely not dare to trample on them again. If Huang Guanglia was alive, wanting to take down the world illuminating peak would also be impossible. If the two sides met elsewhere, Yuan Zhengfeng with the clear Qi robe would still hold an advantage. The two sides were allies, Jade Sea City and Infinite Boundless Mountain, 2 against 1, with the Heavenly Thunder Hall sandwiched between them. Now, it was Broad Creed Mountain's turn to oppress the Sacred Sun Clan, settling old scores. It was just that following Yuan Zhengfeng transcending mortality and entering sainthood, Broad Creed Mountain's strength skyrocketing. Faced with this ally who was clearly a level higher than them, while Jade Sea City and Infinite Boundless Mountain had to rely on Yuan Zhengfeng to keep Huang Guanglia in check, it was also unknown what exactly they were thinking. The Sacred Sun Clan's foundation was similarly deep, its strength vigorous. For Broad Creed Mountain to completely crush them and take revenge for their previous attack, it would still not be easy. The situation in the Eight Extremities world had fallen into a dangerous yet fragile equilibrium. Yan Zhaoge said, in order to obtain victory in a competition, there are only two directions we can work towards, either strengthening ourselves, or weakening our enemies. If there is a major discovery of the Glacial Dragon Martial Saint's legacy, being able to bring about a great increase in our clan's strength, that would naturally be good. However, this matter still cannot be confirmed at the end of the day. A cold light flickered within Yan Zhaoge's eyes. It is impolite not to reciprocate. I will send the Sacred Sun Clan a gift in return. Yan Di said calmly, dealing with Huang Guanglie is not easy, even if he no longer has the great sun heaven measuring ruler. Huang Guanglie was unquestionably the current pillar of the Sacred Sun clan. With him injured, the Sacred Sun clan's strength would immediately fall. However, at the same time, even having been badly battered and bloodied at Broad Creed Mountain just now, Huang Guanglie's strength was still indisputable. In terms of personal strength, having successfully advanced a step further in seclusion this time, Huang Guanglie could basically already be considered the current #1 expert of the Eight Extremities world. Yuan Zhengfeng, without the clear qi robe, was also inferior in comparison. In the Battle of Broad Creed Mountain, it was also because of Yuan Zhengfeng that Yan Zhaoge's killing formation had been effective, causing Huang Guanglie to lose the great sun heaven measuring ruler. Yan Di asked, "You want to target their maiden of extreme yin?" Yan Zhaoge shook his head. Huang Guanglie himself, as well as Meng Wan, are their strongest points. While Meng Wan's cultivation base is low, her advantage in the extreme yin bout is too great. They will now value her even more, focusing on protecting her, even planning to assassinate our junior apprentice sister Feng. This is currently where their greatest concentration of strength lies. Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes slightly into slits. I want to strike where they are weak, where they cannot anticipate. Chapter 317. Hearing Yan Zhaoge's words, a pondering look appeared on Yan Di's face. Just now, you said that the legacy of the glacial dragon martial saint was only incidental, or even a cover-up. The meaning behind your words is that your true target is also in the north? Or should I say that your methods are to be used in the north? Yan Zhaoge nodded, that's right. He gazed towards the north, then turned to the south as he said softly, my target is the Sacred Sun clan's southern underground palace. Hearing his words, Yan Di's gaze hardened slightly. The southern underground palace was located in the south of the fire domain, surrounded by a chain of mountain ranges, with many volcanoes within. Beneath it was a massive sea of lava, its boundaries unknown, its depths unknown. That was a place of great danger alongside the wind domain's great western desert, famed since ancient times. However, it was also an important foundation for the Sacred Sun clan to occupy the fire domain. To what extent was it important? There were many uses for the Sacred Sun clan, but just one of them was already sufficient to explain the problem. The Sacred Sun clan's supreme direct lineage martial art, the extreme Yang Fist, above the 7 great sun arts, had to be cultivated in it with the help of the southern underground palace. If not for the environment there really being too harsh, the Sacred Sun clan would not have chosen the world illuminating peak. From a certain perspective, that was the true sacred ground of the Sacred Sun clan, while the world illuminating peak was more like a place where they were usually stationed. Yan Di said, the southern underground palace is a place like the Great Western Desert. While we all know that it is very important to the Sacred Sun clan, it is hard to destroy. Even if we want to completely occupy it, it is also not realistic. If they could destroy the southern underground palace, in the previous battle of the Eastern Tang, when the Sacred Sun clan had been forced to retreat to the world illuminating peak, Broad Creed Mountain and Jade Sea City would have already made a move against it. Yan Zhaoge said, that's right. The creation of the heavens and the earth is incomparably majestic, not something that can be easily shaken by humans. At the very least, the current me is definitely unable to do so. However, it is also not that I want to forcibly destroy that place. Yan Zhaoge gazed towards the north once more, it is still hard to say now. I will have to first investigate the extreme northern lands before I can come to a conclusion. Right now, I only have a vague idea. Yan Di asked, where did your idea originate from? Although you always have some strange ideas, what inspired you this time to have such a whimsical idea? Many scenes that had been sealed within his memories surfaced within Yan Di's mind. I am surnamed Shi, named Shirtai. I am Master's eldest disciple. Junior apprentice brother Yen, you are a heaven-defying genius, surpassing me 100 times over. In the future, you will definitely become a legendary figure like the exalted Han Tian. Eldest apprentice brother, are you really withdrawing from the competition for the position of chief? That's right. If it is you who inherits the position of chief, I am willing to follow your lead. If it is second apprentice brother, I want to fight for it. Eldest apprentice brother, my condolences for the matter of Songtao's family. I'm fine, don't worry. Right, junior apprentice brother Yen. I know that you are also very busy. However, if you have the time, pay more attention to Zhaoge. Yen Di's usually sharp, domineering gaze lost its focus at this moment. Yen Zhaoge could more or less understand Yen Di's feelings. His heart similarly dimmed as he soundlessly retreated from the room, closing the door behind him. Other than those of Infinite Boundless Mountain, there were also people from Jade Sea City in Turbid Wave Pavilion who had come to congratulate Yuan Jingfeng on transcending mortality and entering sainthood, congratulating Yen Di on officially taking up the position of chief. From Jade Sea City, those who had come were people that Yen Zhaoge knew. While he was only a spirit vessel martial grandmaster, as the son of the first wife of Jade Sea City's city lord Song Wuyang, the Seven Seas young master Song Chao, having come, was also sufficient to express his sincerity. Coming from afar, senior brother Song, our clan greatly welcomes you. Yen Zhaoge received Song Chao's group, however, our clan has just experienced a great tribulation. While we have passed through it, many of our fellow disciples have perished. Therefore, with my father taking up the position of chief this time and my Grand Master stepping into the martial saint realm, our clan does not intend to hold a ceremony. Currently, the entire mountain has many things to do. I hope that senior brother Song will not blame us if we have been negligent. Song Chao said, this is only natural. In ascending the mountain, we also hope that we can offer incense to the deceased seniors of your clan. Yen Zhaoge nodded, I thank everyone of Jade Sea City. Besides Song Chao, amongst the group of Jade Sea City disciples, a girl said, Senior brother Yen, my condolences. It was Li Jingwan whom he had met at the Heavenly Connection meet earlier. Yen Zhaoge said, Junior sister Li is considerate. He walked forward, leading Song Chao, Li Jingwan and the others up the mountain. After the incense had been offered, Yen Zhaoge said, a little later, our clan will hold a grand funeral for our fellow disciples who perished this time. If you all wish to stay behind to observe the ceremony, that is also fine. Chapter 318. What Song Chao and Jade Sea City were planning, Yen Zhaoge could not really tell at the moment. However, for the time being at least, Yen Zhaoge did not intend to continue considering it. For Broad Creed Mountain's entire faction, what they were most concerned about now was the funeral. In this great tribulation of Broad Creed Mountain, having first experienced the chaos of the decimating abyss before encountering the attacks of the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall, the number of Broad Creed Mountain martial practitioners who had perished was not few. Shirtai was one of them. Apart from him, there were other fellow disciples who died as well. Right now, their corpses were collected and buried together. Everyone, more or less, had old friends and family. Everyone represented a tragedy and sorrow. And to Broad Creed Mountain as a whole, the greatest influence was still Shirtai's death. Not counting Xian Dongping and Elder Wang who had been purged, Shirtai was the strongest expert of Broad Creed Mountain who had perished in this tribulation. Including those who had been corroded by the decimating abyss, Broad Creed Mountain's losses this time were not small, having suffered a great deal of damage to their vitality. Fortunately, Yuan Jingfeng and Yen Di's successive breakthroughs as well as the strengthening of Broad Creed Mountain's Guardian Formation, the Clear Chi Grand Formation, had caused Broad Creed Mountain's overall strength to rise instead of falling. Counterattacking the territories occupied by the Sacred Sun clan in the Fire Domain and the Wind Domain, they had obtained a great amount of resources, also making up for Broad Creed Mountain's losses. Meanwhile, their enemies, the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall, had similarly suffered heavy losses, especially the Sacred Sun clan who had lost their sacred artifact, the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler, suffering losses to the point of vomiting blood. The funeral was presided over by Yen Di, who had taken over the position of chief. Yuan Zhengfeng and the other higher echelon experts of Broad Creed Mountain all appeared, sending Shi Tai and the others on their final journey. Runes flickered within Yen Di's pupils as he controlled the clear Qi Grand Formation to slowly circulate. As the Great Formation operated, a beam of clear light shot into the distance, forming an illusory world of light and shadow, as if it was another world. It was a foreign dimension, completely different from the one in which Yen Di and Yen Zhaoge had battled Xian Dongping and Yuan Tian. This space flickered with a watery light, like a giant lake. The entire foreign dimension, the entire small world, seemed to be a lake. Yen Zhaoge, Su Fei, Feng Yunsheng, Xikong Qing, Ying Longtu, and the other Broad Creed Mountain disciples all had solemn expressions on their faces. Song Chao and the others who had come to watch the ceremony were also watching the world in the lake. Li Jingwan said softly, "That is the burial ground of Broad Creed Mountain's past disciples, the heavenly-born lake." Song Chao nodded. Not bad. According to Broad Creed Mountain's customs, when disciples of the Broad Creed Mountain perished, other than the families of the deceased who had special requests, such as bringing them back to the clan for burial, all corpses that could be collected for burial would be buried in the natural spirit lake. After burying the others, Yen Di personally carried the transparent ice coffin containing the stone and metal to the world within the lake. Standing in mid-air above the massive lake, placing the ice coffin before him and looking at Shi Tai's serene face within, Yen Di was silent, not speaking for a long time. There was even a faint smile on Shi Tai's face. It was a mixture of comfort and joy. Yen Di's face was sunken as water as his palm streaked across the cover of the ice coffin. Now, a figure arrived beside Yen Di. Yen Di did not move as he knew who it was. Fang Zhuan's features were as lean as ever, gentle and refined, just that the usual faint smile on his face was now nowhere to be seen, his gaze heavy. He reached out, as if wanting to place his palm on the coffin lid like Yen Di. However, when his finger was less than an inch away from the ice coffin, Fang Zhuan's hand stopped in mid-air, not moving, as if not daring to touch it. Yen Di said softly, "Eldest apprentice brother will not blame you. Master, I, and the others also do not have such thoughts." Fang Zhuan's expression did not change, but he resembled a statue as he stood in mid-air, not saying a word, not moving in the slightest. While the chaos of the decimating abyss had been quelled, Xian Dongping and the others having already been slain, from a certain perspective, Fang Zhuan felt that he was the true source of this great tribulation. It was he who had first pushed open that great, forbidden door. While he himself, with supreme willpower, had closed the great door once more, causing the shadow of the 9 underworlds that had first attempted to extend into the 8 extremities world to shrink back. However, Xian Dongping had stepped on his shoulders, following the path that he had once walked, only then having taken that nightmarish step. Between him and Xian Dongping, who exactly was the true founder of the decimating abyss, it was really hard to say. Looking at Shi Tai within the ice coffin before him, looking at the people of Broad Creed Mountain who had already fallen into the natural spirit lake below, even more figures seemed to surface before his eyes. From clear concealed lake to the incident of Yunwu County in the Sand region, to this tribulation of Broad Creed Mountain this time. Fang Zhuan already knew about Shi Songtao's matter, and could only remain silent at this moment. Yen Di said, "Don't waste your time on it. What eldest apprentice brother wants to see more is a carefree Broad Creed Mountain." Retracting his hand, Fang Zhuan nodded slowly, turning and leaving. Sucking in a deep breath, Yen Di released his hand on the ice coffin descending downwards. Shi Tai's figure gradually grew smaller and further away, the ice coffin descending into the lake, waves rippling. Gazing at Shi Tai's gradually disappearing face within the water, Yan Di's gaze did not shift for even a moment. At the top of the heaven-rising peak, Yuan Zhengfeng had a sorrowful expression on his face as he looked at the figures of Yan Di and Fang Zhuan, as well as that transparent ice coffin. The person within the ice coffin was his eldest disciple, the first disciple he had ever had in his life. How many years of trials and tribulations had passed together, many things still seemed like they had happened yesterday. Lion, your master is clear about his injuries. If I enter secluded cultivation, it is very hard to say whether I will be able to come out alive. I intend to choose you as the new chief. Are you willing to bear this burden? Master, junior apprentice brother Fang and junior apprentice brother Yan are both more outstanding than this disciple. The former is too extreme, while the latter is too flamboyant. While as they grow older, they have gradually become more stable. If they want to take charge of Broad Creed Mountain, they still need to be tempered. Sadly, external enemies like the Sacred Sun clan might not give us that much time. This disciple's personality is too pedantic, and I'm afraid that he is also not chief material. This disciple believes that whether it is junior apprentice brother Fang or junior apprentice brother Yan, they will both become the central pillars of our clan. This disciple is foolish, but is also willing to lay down my life for the clan. Whatever the position, when and where, as long as the clan needs this disciple will definitely stand up without hesitation. That's also true. Your personality is too straightforward, and I'm afraid that you will be schemed against by those crafty old foxes like unreasonable old Huang and bald Shen. Forget it, since you insist on not being willing, then let's see whether Hidden Dragon, or if Invincible, can distinguish themselves first and take on this heavy responsibility. Thinking back on his past life, Yuan Zhengfeng closed his eyes somewhat painfully. Having clashed head-on with Huang Guanglie, the heaven-equaling Saint Yuan Zhengfeng who had supported Broad Creed Mountain for so many years, whose name shook the entire Eight Extremities world, who had already stepped into the martial saint realm that he had dreamed of for so many years, currently appeared extremely weak. Seeing this, the Grand Elder Zhang Kuan and He Ning behind him both sighed. They had only seen such a senior apprentice brother Yuan once before. That was after Yuan Zhengfeng's master, the heaven diviner Zhan Shilo had perished. Today, however, they met once again. When you were needed, you said that you would definitely stand up, and you indeed did as you said. Yuan Zhengfeng muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. But, silly boy, you've stood up. After the waves have calmed down, you should stand back up for your master. Chapter 319. Yan Zhaoge had attended the entire ceremony, Su Fei and Ing Longtu standing by his side. The two core disciples of Broad Creed Mountain no longer wore the black-bordered blue robes they usually wore, only leaving behind a set of white clothes, a white cloth tied around their foreheads. Han Long was sobbing uncontrollably. Unlike when his parents had passed away, he now understood the meaning of death, and understood that yet another of his family members had left him. Shui Fei's huge body was like a stone statue as he hugged Han Long's shoulder. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were red. He didn't stop Han Long from crying, and only hugged his junior brother tightly, giving Han Long something to lean on. Yan Zhaoge looked at Su Fei, senior apprentice brother Su. Shui Fei took a deep breath and shook his head. Don't worry. I'm fine. Yan Zhaoge said no more as he quietly watched his father send off his eldest apprentice uncle Shi Tai on his final journey. At the end of the funeral, the passageway connecting the natural spirit lake to the outside world was closed once more under Yan Di's control. Yan Zhaoge and the other Broad Creed Mountain disciples all had solemn expressions on their faces as they solemnly bowed towards the gradually disappearing natural spirit lake. Song Chao and the others who came to watch the ceremony also half saluted. After the funeral, Song Chao came before Yan Zhaoge and Su Fei, sighing, my condolences. Yan Zhaoge and Su Fei both nodded. Looking at Song Chao, Yan Zhaoge asked softly, "Does City Lord Song have something to ask Senior Apprentice Brother Song to bring over?" Senior Apprentice Brother Song is understanding of our sect's funeral and has not mentioned it even now. I am deeply moved by your kindness. Although there are still some things to deal with, the funeral is basically over. If Senior Apprentice Brother Song has anything to say, you can speak freely. If you need to see my father or master ancestor, I can also pass on your wishes. The pain in one's heart would not dissipate so quickly, and the anger directed at one's enemies would continue to accumulate and ferment. But the dead are gone, and the living move forward. Not forgetting the dead doesn't mean that they can't extricate themselves from the negative emotions. Some things had already reached the point where they needed to be dealt with calmly and timely. Strive forward, in order not to lose more. Hearing Yan Zhaoge's words, Song Chao no longer hesitated as he candidly nodded in acknowledgement, but then shook his head. "It is a personal matter. I indeed have something that I would like Junior Apprentice Brother Yan's help with, but it is not something important. It is just that mentioning it before the funeral is a little inappropriate." Yan Zhaoge said, "Since that is so, Senior Apprentice Brother Song should speak frankly." Song Chao said, "It's like this, your esteemed sect cleaned up your sect, exterminating the decimating abyss Lord Xian Dongping. I wonder if there were any material gains? I mean, special products of the earth that are hard to collect." Yan Zhaoge asked rather curiously, "What does Senior Apprentice Brother Song want?" Song Chao explained, "It's a special spirit stone known as the Unfallen Ghost Rock. It's unique to the earth domain. It can't be found anywhere else, and it's only been produced in small amounts in the earth domain." Yan Zhaoge raised his head and pondered. In his memories, there really seemed to be such a thing within Xian Dongping's private property. The Yan Tian Mountain, Yan Chen, Shan, Yan Qing He, Yan Dong Xian, Yan of Tian, with Yan Zhaoge's current level of authority in Broad Creed Mountain, dealing with the resources obtained from Xian Dongping was completely not a problem at all. Also, there really were things he wanted in Jade Sea City and the water domain. However, in order to prevent his target from being exposed too early, Yan Zhaoge said, "Because of the importance of this matter, Xian Dongping's assets are currently being handled by my father. Senior Apprentice Brother Song can accompany me to meet my father and explain the situation. Our two clans have always been on good terms. If there is indeed an unfallen ghost rock, there shouldn't be a problem." Song Chao nodded. "I will have to trouble Senior Yan." He had met Yan Di before, but had not mentioned the matter of the unfallen ghost rock. Now that they met again, he immediately explained the situation. Yan Di received Yan Zhaoge's sound transmission through his aura chi before saying, "There is indeed an unfallen ghost rock, but the quantity is rather limited. I wonder how much does little friend Song need?" Song Chao answered, "A square meter of it will do." Yan Di nodded. "Then our clan does have enough. I can give it to little friend Song. Having experienced a great tribulation, our clan has many things waiting to be done. We are in urgent need of many resources. Actually, I want to exchange some resources with your clan. I had originally intended to send a message to your father through little friend Song. An exchange between the two clans would not be just one or two things. Instead, there would be many different kinds of things, and the quantity required would also be immense." Song Chao hurriedly said, "This junior will send the news back to Jade Sea City as soon as possible." Yan Di said, "That would be for the best." After sending Song Chao back to his temporary resting place, Yan Zhaoge and Yan Di sat facing each other. Yan Zhaoge rubbed his temples as he said, "Just put what I want in the clan's list of goods." "This is natural," Yan Di asked, "Do you think that this is something that Song Chao wants personally?"